Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City Planning Commission. Today is Monday, October 16th, 2023. My name is Alyssa Olson. I'm the president of the Planning Commission. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
Present.
Baxley.
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Conley is absent. Emmerich.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Koski.
Present.
Marwa.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
We have 9 members present.
All right, we have a quorum. With that, we'll proceed to the agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolis.mn.gov. We'll begin with acceptance of the minutes from October 2nd, 2023. Could I have a motion to accept those minutes?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. The minutes are adopted. Next, we're going to organize our agenda for the evening, which is, again, available at lims.minneapolis.mn.gov, and there are copies somewhere over in the pile of papers. Right there. All right. I'll read through agenda items and numbers and address whether they're stated for consent, continuance, return, withdrawal, or discussion. Consent items will be passed without discussion by the board, and we'll be adopting the staff recommendation for those items. So if you agree with the staff recommendation when I call the item out, you don't need to do anything. If you disagree with the staff recommendation when I call out that item, you can just raise your hand, let us know, and we'll put that item on our discussion agenda. All right, so the following items are on our agenda for this evening. Item number 4 is 550 Westlake Tax Increment Financing Plan. This is on our consent agenda, and there will not be a public hearing. Item number 5 is 2404 McNair Ave. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 5? Seeing none, I'll put item 5 on consent. Item number 6 is 3701 Wayzata Boulevard. This item will be continued to the November 13th meeting. Item number 7 is 1650 and 1700 Kenwood Parkway. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation on item 7? Seeing none, we'll put item 7 on consent. Item number 8 is 3801 Pleasant Avenue. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item number 8? Seeing none, we'll put 8 on consent. Item number 9, 2 public alleys adjacent to 2501 Stevens Ave. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 9? All right, we'll put 9 on consent. Item number 10 is 5005 Lindell Ave. We will discuss item number 10. Item number 11, Amendment Title 20 Site Plan Review Standards. This item was continued from the October 2nd, 2023 meeting, and the commission voted to allow additional public comment on this item, so we will put that on our discussion agenda. Item number 12 is 900 20th Avenue South. This item was continued from the October 2nd, 2023 meeting. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 12? All right, seeing none, we'll put item 12 on consent. So to review, we have items 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 12 on consent. We will discuss items 10 and 11, and we will continue item number 6 to November 13th. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes and the agenda has been adopted. We will proceed to handle the consent agenda next. First, we'll vote on consent items on the agenda that do not have a public hearing, and after we've done that, we can proceed to our public hearing consent items. So could I have a motion to adopt item 4, 550 Westlake Tax Increment Financing Plan on consent?
So moved. Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. And now we'll move on to the rest of our consent items. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on any of the consent items? I'll open the public hearing for those now. Which number do you want to speak on? Okay. If you can go to the podium, state your name and neighborhood for the record.
Willard Hay on item 5, and I very much support it. That's a house I want to buy, and it's just a lot split. I saw the recommendations, and I don't think there's anything controversial. I just wanted to say this is the last item before I buy it. It's my first house. I came from California 2 years ago, and very excited to buy the house and for you all to approve it.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on the consent items? If so, you can come forward now. State your name and neighborhood for the address, for the record.
Hi, I actually is kind of lost. I'm trying to figure out the Opus group to build the apartment building. Is it the item that's consent right now?
Do you know what item number it is? Is that the?
That's the item being continued for 2 cycles to November 13th.
Yes, so we will do that item on November 13th here, but we aren't going to do it today.
Oh, you're not doing it today? But they send it a post everywhere as today.
Yeah, so it was continued. I'm not sure the circumstances of that. Kimberly, I don't know if you want to.
I was eating one of the
Sorry.
cookies that Commissioner Alper passed around. Yes, Mailing is the planner on that and can provide more detail, but I believe the intent of the continuance was to allow the applicant more time to engage with the neighborhood.
Yeah, okay, so they post the wrong date?
It was originally scheduled, which is why it was on the agenda today, and as part of today's proceedings, it's been continued for 2 cycles.
Okay, so the 13th, I should come back here?
Yes,
At what time?
same time, 4:30.
4:30, okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, anyone else on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to adopt items 5, 7, 8, 9, and 12 on the consent agenda?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. So if you were here for items 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, or 12, those items have been completed. Good luck with your projects. All right, we will move on to our continuance agenda. Item 6, 3701 Wayzata Boulevard. Oh, wait. Do we already do this? No. Okay. 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 3701 Wayzata Boulevard is under consideration to be presented on November 13th. Could I have a motion to continue item 6 to November 13th?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we will hear item 6 on November 13th. And now we will move on to our discussion items. And first up is item number 10, and it's Mei-Ling Smith.
Good afternoon, President Olson and Commissioners. I'm Mei-Ling Smith with CPED, and the property before you is 5005 Lindale Avenue South. Do we want to change anything, Kimberly?
Yeah, why don't we see if
That's
we
fine.
can figure this out? Kimberly, would we vote as a commission to reopen, or what would we?
I think because it's an item being continued, you
Okay.
could quickly open that public hearing if
Okay.
you wanted to, since we have a member of the public who's here tonight.
Okay.
And then I chased her down in the hall and I didn't have a chance to communicate to you. And then we can just leave it open since it's going to be continued to the 13th.
Okay. Are any commissioners opposed to that? I doubt it. Okay, all right, so we'll open the public hearing on item number 6, which is continued to November 13th. So if you want to state your name and neighborhood for the record, proceed with your comments, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, so my name is Sue Robertson, and I live 1504 Tyrell Trail, which is the first house right next to the parking lot that we're going to build the apartment building. First of all, we have never received any notice from the company that they're going to build an apartment. If it's not a neighborhood organizer, they send out a group email saying about this. I would have no clue this is happening right now today. They have a tiny little post on the lawn, and just I walk my dog by it all the time. I thought it was just a lost and find sign. Second of all, the parking lot light is directly to my bedroom. Like right now, they kind of dimmed it, and I have to put on my curtain every single night. It was a neighborhood that people try to protect light pollution as much as possible. So our neighborhood actually has very minimum street lights. We try to keep our light down so the nature can be preserved. It's right by Theater Wars. The deers are really. We have literally between the parking lot to my property line, there is 7 deer beds there every single year. And I just think the pollution that they're gonna bring into the neighborhood is gonna be pretty substantial. Yeah, so that's kind of just concerning how much traffic they're gonna bring into the neighborhood in between Brownie Lake and Theater Wars. It's been quiet so far, and since they moved in, and I don't know what's gonna happen if they build a big apartment building in there. Are we gonna have big traffic? Because before, when we first moved there, Target was just about to move out. And when they're about to move out, we can tell the difference of how much traffic it is in the morning for us versus now that Alpas took over and there's less business in there. Nature-wise, it's just, animals are going to be scared away, and they're okay, that's all. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And I'm going to leave that public hearing open until November 13th. All right. But we can move on to item number 10, and it's mailing.
Yes, thank you. So this is 5005 Lindale, and it is located at the southeast corner of 50th Street West and Lindale Avenue South in the Tangletown neighborhood. The existing zoning is UN3. It's also in the Airport Overlay District and the Corridor 4 Built Form Overlay District. And here's an aerial that shows the house. Originally, it was 3 parcels, and so it was combined to create this larger parcel that's over 11,000 square feet. Here's a rendering of the proposed development. It would be a 4-story building with 20 dwelling units. The applications that are required are 2 variances and site plan review, and I'll get into more detail with the variances in a second. So as you can see on the left, that's what the requirement is under the zoning code. So there's a 15-foot setback along Lindale that is being met. There is a 31-foot setback in the northeast corner of the subject property, and that just applies for the first 25 feet away from the east property line that's shared with the neighboring residential use. And the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce it from 31 feet to 15 feet, and they would maintain the 15-foot setback for the first 39 feet away from the east property line. The corner side yard setback requirement is the remainder of that frontage on 50th, and that's a 10-foot requirement, and they're proposing between 0 and 4 feet for various encroachments. And then the rear property line, the rear setbacks along the east and south sides of the property are being met. So here's a diagram that shows where the applicable setbacks are. So the blue square shows where the applicable setback is under the zoning code. So it's intended to match the residential character of the house to the east. And that is, as you can see, the underlying site plan is a 15-foot setback. And the 15 feet comes from the intention, I believe, to meet like what a normal front yard setback would be under the zoning code, and that's what you see along Lindale. And then the reverse corner front yard requirement is 10 feet, and they're proposing between 0 and 4. And then the parking access would be from 50th. There is no alley adjacent to the site. There are 33 below-grade parking stalls. This is the main floor plan, and you can see there's a little bit of amenity space and bike parking towards the center of the building, and then there are 4 townhome units facing Lindale, and in the southeast corner, there's an additional unit. This is the mezzanine level of that first floor. And then the second and third floors each have 6 units, and the top floor has 3 units. And as you can see with this floor plan, the building is stepped back away from the north, west, and south property lines. Here are the proposed exterior materials. So you see terracotta on the left, that would be mainly used on the top floor. White brick is the center image, and then stucco and cast stone would be the other exterior materials. Here are the building elevations. As you can see, there are some blank walls. So the east elevation on the top has a 43-foot wide blank wall on the first floor, and that's adjacent to the parking structure. There is like some mesh screening, I believe, or no, that's actually the detail, sorry, in the center of that blank wall is actually a brick detail, so they're just rotating the brick coursing in order to create some more visual interest there. And then the north elevation on the bottom, you can see this is facing 50th Street, and there's a blank wall right above the parking garage. And then the top image is the elevation facing Lindale. The south elevation faces the neighboring residential property to the south. So here's another rendering showing that corner at 50th and Lindale. Another view from 50th, a view looking northwest, and then the view from Lindale. Staff is recommending granting alternative compliance if you were to approve the site plan review application. And we have included a memo that should have been distributed tonight that shows, if you were to approve the site plan review, overturning staff recommendation, what our recommended conditions of approval would be. But we do recommend granting alternative compliance for the reasons that are listed in the staff report. I won't get into detail right now. But I will summarize the variance findings for you. So the first one, that corner variance regarding the reverse corner front yard. So the 31 feet is the setback. That's based on the established front yard of the neighboring house. The applicant is proposing 15. We find that challenges do exist in complying with the ordinance due to circumstances that are unique to the property. As I explained, this is an irregularly platted lot that originally was 3 smaller parcels, and the applicant is trying to meet the intent by bringing it not to 31 feet, but to 15 feet to better match the residential character along the 2 street frontages. If they were to comply with the 31-foot setback, that would severely limit the buildable area of the site. So we recommend granting this variance. The second variance is the corner side yard along 50th. And the applicant is proposing the building wall at 4 feet, and then there are other miscellaneous encroachments that have also been outlined here. We find that challenges do not exist in complying with the ordinance that are due to circumstances that are unique to the property. As I explained, the property is over 11,000 square feet. It's also relatively flat. The unit size, the floor plan layout, and the parking orientation, the vehicle circulation could all be modified to accommodate the 6-foot difference between the building setback requirements and what's proposed. And some below-grade parking spaces could also be eliminated. The variance we find has been created by the applicant, and we find that the 10-foot setback that's required under the zoning code would provide additional separation of uses. It would also be more consistent with the character of the other residential uses along 50th that are set back 31 feet and 20 feet. And the 4-foot setback would not be in keeping with the spirit and intent of the ordinance. So this is the staff recommendation as found in your packets. We are recommending approval of the reverse corner variance only, and we recommend denial of the corner side yard setback from 10 to 4 feet. and to 0 feet for the stairs and retaining wall. We also recommend denial of the site plan review. Let's see, so revising the plans to comply with the 10-foot setback to eliminate the variance would require a substantial redesign of the site plan. The grading, including the grading features, the ramp, the floor plan layout, the parking lot layout. It is customary for staff to recommend denial of the site plan review application when we're recommending denial of a variance that would require a substantial redesign of the project. And staff has received numerous comments that are in the packets and also that have been forwarded to you today. They're both in support and against the project. And I'd like to note that prior to the land use rezoning study that was adopted on July 1st, this property was zoned R1, and the project is therefore affected by the recent court order regarding the Minneapolis 2040 comprehensive plan. The applicant was able to proceed under the first part of the court order, but was advised that there is a risk in doing so. The applicant must have all city approvals completed before the second part of the court order goes into effect on November 5th, or the project will not be able to proceed. I'm here to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mei Ling. Commissioner Meyer?
Okay, so there are 5 different setback sides to this. Can you point out on the map each one of the 5 for us? Because I'm still not completely following each.
Are you talking about the different encroachments along the north? Or five? Oh, I see.
You had a chart that showed
Yeah.
5 different setback requirements.
This one, yes. Okay.
And I'm wondering if you can go to the map and like
Yeah,
just point to each one of them.
okay. So this is a front yard setback requirement along Lindale. This is considered a corner side yard. This is considered a reverse corner front yard setback, front yard requirement. So the reverse corner comes from the fact that it shares frontage with the existing house to the east. So the front yard requirement under the zoning code only applies for the first 25 feet. So the setback request is from 31 feet to match, which would match the neighboring house, but the applicant is only proposing 15 feet. So we're recommending approval of this variance because of the hardship. And then we are recommending denial of anything that's within this zone. So this is a 10-foot setback requirement. We've got, these are things that could easily be fixed, but like a stairway that's too wide and a ramp and a retaining wall, but also the building wall is 4 feet from the property line where 10 foot would be required under the zoning code. And then 7 feet is the requirement along the east and the south. These are considered rear setbacks.
Okay, and so which one they're asking for and you're recommending denial would mean?
We are recommending denial of the red, anything in the red. So we would like to see this pulled back to 10 feet.
And that also crosses over into the blue, like the first part
It
of the blue?
doesn't.
It doesn't?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's basically anything that's not within this front yard is considered the corner.
Okay. Can you, I'd like when the applicant presents, I'd ask them to speak to this, but I also want staff to give their response to the practical difficulties that the applicant is claiming. So they're arguing that, what was it? That there's a 6-foot extra boulevard or something, and then there's an alley that was vacated. Can you respond with your thoughts on those two things? I
Well,
can read them when I find it if you want me to.
okay. Well, our findings, I can go back to the slide. We don't find that there is a challenge in meeting the intent of the ordinance to bring it to 10 feet. I think that they're maybe discussing the fact that there is no alley, so they have to add some additional maneuvering below grade and provide additional parking below grade. So I believe that is their approach to that variance finding.
Okay, and it's not the section adjacent to the vacated alley that this applies to, right? It's on 50th Street.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so they write in the letter that they included in here, so they say a practical difficulty exists in the subject parcel has a lot line that is set back 6 feet from the sidewalk. Typically conforming city lots are platted with the property line located at the back of the sidewalk. If that were the case with this parcel, there would be no need for a variance.
So, yeah, they might be discussing the width of the right-of-way and needing to provide additional encroachments within that area. That might be something that's better to ask the applicant.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Ford?
Thank you. So to the east of this building on 50th is the house. And under this plan, looking again at the blue spot, the building will protrude 15 feet, 16 feet actually, I guess, beyond the line of the house that's currently there, correct? What is the nature of the design and of that brick wall, of that wall that's going to be there, that 16-foot wall?
Along the east side or along the north side?
Along the east side?
It would mostly just be blank. It would be a blank wall.
Okay.
And we have asked the applicant to talk about, or think about, like, how is the exhaust happening, and there would not be exhaust in that northeast corner, any exhaust from the parking garage. That would be along the southeast corner.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Baxley?
Mei-Ling, could you just explain one more time why staff was accepting of the variance for the reverse corner? One more time, sorry.
Sure. I mean, it is quite typical for staff to find that there is a practical difficulty related to reverse corner situations. So the fact that this has two frontages based on the platting, the actual platting, and they're forced to have this additional front yard setback requirement because of the location of the house to the east, which is setback actually more than would be required under the current zoning code. That severely limits the buildable area of the site. So we are supportive of that just because it is a little bit of an excess requirement.
And is there a magic to the 15 feet?
Yes.
Could you talk about that?
Yes, so there is logic. So the Lindale Avenue side is complying with that 15-foot setback, which is the requirement with the Corridor 4 and UN combination. So that's what they're intending to apply. Like if this were a normal front yard situation, that's what they're proposing to do, and they're actually proposing to exceed that. Because if it's 39 feet instead of just the 25 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Emmerich?
Thank you. Of the 20 units in the proposed building, do you know how many bedrooms those units have?
Yes, I do. Let me just turn to that page of the staff report. Oh, maybe I didn't add that into the staff report. And I think I'll let the applicant say that because I'd have to look at the floor plans at this point.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Meyer, did you have more questions or? Oh, okay. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions from staff. So I guess I'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant here to speak on the item? Yep, if you can come forward.
Mei-Ling, will you show me how to get to that stuff?
So this is the one that Christian just sent to me?
Oh, sweet.
Is that
That's
the
great.
one that you
Yeah,
want? Okay.
super, thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for your time and efforts. My name is Todd Smith. I'm the applicant. I'm a partner in a small development firm called Master Properties here in Minneapolis. I'm here to discuss the Washburn House, which is what we're calling this development. It's a great example of intentional, thoughtful, and contextual infill development as envisioned in the Minneapolis 2040 Comprehensive Plan. This project promotes 6 of the 14 goals that are the basis of 2040. They are eliminate disparities, more residents and jobs, affordable and accessible housing, high-quality physical environment, complete neighborhoods, and climate change resilience. As some of you know, this project was presented at COW on May 11th, and it received strong support from the commissioners in attendance, to the extent that the committee requested findings from staff in support of the variance we'll discuss shortly. It seems there's been much confusion surrounding staff support and recommendation for this project. Perhaps it's related to the back and forth with litigation and uncertainty with 2040. It certainly impacted us all. I'd like to give a little background on the project. I purchased the property in April of 2022 and was assigned a planner. He informed me that I could not move forward with a multifamily project at the time, despite passage of Minneapolis 2040 and Build Form 4, and being in a goods and service corridor designation. And so I waited until the zoning was updated. In April of 2023, when I requested to appear at COW, although I wasn't sure it was a necessity, we did want the feedback. At that time, staff informed me I needed an HPC review to move forward. Since May, we spent several months moving through a historic review process related to the potential Washburn Park Residential Historic District. It was first recognized in 1981 and later in 2005. It has never been acted upon. After 2 successful hearings and appeals, months of work and thousands of dollars, the issue has been put to bed. Had I had guidance from staff to do a historic review earlier than April of this year, this project probably would have been entitled and permitted by now. Zoning was updated in June of this year, and the development team had hoped to be in queue at that time, but we couldn't because of the HPC process. At this point, a best-case scenario is to receive entitlements, and at some unknown date in the future to be able to pull a construction permit. Here's a brief rundown of some of the responses from planning staff to date. In response to PDR, in August, staff noted 6 variances were required. In September, after the stay was lifted in the 2040 litigation, staff strongly encouraged the applicant to pause the project. In requesting to come before Planning Commission prior to the November 4th deadline, we were denied by staff and had to appeal the request. It was suggested that the architecture be revised to get rid of the 50th Street variance, have a 10-foot setback, reduce unit count to 19 rather than 20 units, and be administratively approved. Between April and June of 2023, the suggested zoning by staff on this site has been CM1, UN2, and UN3. It has been both adjacent to and not adjacent to a goods and services corridor. The first variance on today's staff report, which staff supports, at various times has and hasn't been a variance. If you see the updated municipal code 540.830 versus 540.850 relating to reverse corner side yards, they're contradictory. Apparently 540.860 resolves the issue subscribing to the point of view that whatever is more restrictive should govern, with the caveat, except as otherwise provided. And also noted by staff, typically an established setback wouldn't apply in a corridor 4 district. All right, all of that's a bit confusing. But let's just step back. The Washburn House, with the exception of this one variance, is a fully conforming project under Minneapolis 2040. Really, it's exactly what the comprehensive plan is encouraging to be built. I recognize that there's people that don't agree with or like the new comprehensive plan, but that's not what we're here to discuss. Further, should the variance not be granted today, the building can be built almost identically to what is shown. It will shrink by 6 feet in depth in relation to 50th Street. The parking level, P1, and levels 1 and 3 will all shrink by 6 feet and will lose 4 parking spots out of 31. I, my architect, the civil engineers are all unsure what the significant changes that staff references to the structure might be that cause them to recommend denial of the site plan. I've emailed and spoken about the issue without getting replies to my questions. I've been told it's customary when recommending denial of a variance. Really? Leaving all this stuff aside, though, for a moment, let's talk about where this building should be placed. Our development team has thought, walked, discussed, and reviewed this placement countless times at this point. And this building is situated on the site exactly where it should be. And we've arrived at the same place that when we presented at COW. We're building a 4-story structure that's going to be here for 100+ years. Let's place it correctly, intentionally, and with recognition of the contextual setting. I don't know how to make this bigger, so my apologies. I hope you can see that there. So similar to the slide Mei Ling was showing, the top is West 50th Street, Lyndale is on the left of the site. So let's quickly walk through the finding of facts we presented to staff. Over many years, there's been a strong precedent of granting the variance to a 10-foot setback and considering a double front yard, a reverse corner with a front yard setback, and a corner side yard. We're requesting the variance to a minimum of 4 feet for a portion of this rhombus-shaped reverse corner lot. The difference between the recognized variance to 10 feet versus a 4-foot encroachment totals 228 square feet of the first floor of the building. If you note that X'd off red area on 50th Street, that's the only part of the building that we're talking about. It's 3% of the first floor building area. The encroachment is 42 feet long on the side lot, on the side yard, and that lot has a dimension of 120 feet. It's 35% of the lot length, and it occurs mid-lot. Let's look at the 3 findings for variance. The first one, practical difficulties exist in complying with the ordinance because of circumstances unique to the property. The unique circumstances were not created by persons currently having an interest in the property and are not based on economic considerations alone. Okay, typically, conforming city lots are platted with the property line at the back of the sidewalk. A practical difficulty exists here in that the subject parcel has a lot line that is set back 4 feet from the back of sidewalk. And Commissioner, I thought it was 6 feet when I wrote that for PDR, and in further measuring it, it's 4, not 6 feet from what you were reading earlier. If this lot line had been placed at the back of sidewalk, as is common, we'd be asking for a variance to 8 feet rather than the regular granted 10. The difference we're talking about is 2 feet. It's just 2 feet from what is regularly granted. This is a practical difficulty that staff's not acknowledging. And we're not even talking about the fact that there's a boulevard. If you look at the Lyndale elevation, the staff report references a 15-foot setback from the lot line. It's actually almost 42 feet from the back of curb. This is a site diagram of the parking at the lower level. And the red area shows where the building wall is. And there's stackable parking spots, so it actually impacts 4 parking stalls, not 2 as it sort of appears. The variance allows for the building wall to align with the foundation wall, resulting in a net gain of 4 underground parking stalls. Denial would result in the loss of these 4 underground parking stalls. I know parking isn't a requirement with the city, but in looking at the site and the lack of street parking on Lyndale or 50th, it seems like a good idea to have more parking rather than less, which will be a direct benefit to the neighbors on Garfield. The second finding, the property owner or authorized applicant proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner that will be keeping with the spirit and intent of the ordinance and comprehensive plan. Staff comments from COW, as well and in today's report, confirm the reasonable manner consistent with the intent and purpose of the comprehensive plan. I quote, future land use, the proposal is compatible with the land use guidance for the urban neighborhood district, which allows for a variety of building types and scales of residential development dependent on context. I quote, built form. The proposed 4-story structure is in compliance with the built form guidance for the Corridor 4 built form district. Further, and importantly, the variance on the north side of the development, 50th Street West, does not encroach neighboring properties or impact light or airiness in the right-of-way. The third finding for a variance, the proposed variance will not alter the essential character of the locality or be injurious to the use or enjoyment of other property in the vicinity. If granted, the proposed variance will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the general public or those utilizing the property or nearby properties. Lyndale Avenue, which travels north and south, has a 100-foot right-of-way. The right-of-way east of Lyndale, the subject property on 50th, is 66 feet. By comparison, the right-of-way west of Lyndale Avenue is 63 feet and narrows to 60 feet in 2 short blocks. Parcels west of Lyndale on 50th Street have no boulevard. The sidewalk is at the back of curb. By contrast, the parcels east of Lyndale have a boulevard measurement of 5 feet. In this unique circumstance, perhaps a better way to think about setback is from structure to curb versus setback and property line. This slide shows how the proposed structure and its alignment with existing structures provide visual consistency in setback alignment and in keeping with the established essential character of the locality. So if you look at this proposed site and you go further east on 50th Street, you can see how we step back that building and it aligns with the other two houses on that block. The most adjacent structure is sort of an outlier house. And then if you look at the 4 parcels and with the existing setbacks, these are the measurements for the 4 corners of this intersection. They're at 15 and a half, 24 feet, and 18 feet. Our proposal is 18 feet, 10 inches. We looked at the intent of the ordinance and believe the best way to recognize the intent is to consider the characteristics of all 4 parcels at the intersection, all of which are built Form 4. The 2 parcels to the west of Lyndale, I believed were CM2, but in staff report, they're RM1 now. And the other 2 parcels on the east side are UN3, this being one of them. Please note the setbacks at the other 3 parcels are comparable or less than the setback for our project. The 2 existing homes on the west side of Lyndale, 5005 Lyndale and 4952 Lyndale, have a retaining wall and a 6-foot fence, respectively, at the lot line. This is 4952 Lyndale, and you can see how there's no boulevard and the sidewalk goes to the curb. Here is 5000 Lyndale Avenue South with a fence at the back of sidewalk and no boulevard. So I believe the guiding principle here, or the intent of the ordinance, or essential character to be preserved, is better determined from a right-of-way or pedestrian walkway experience. The proposed building setback from the back of curb varies from 1810 to 31 feet 1 inch, which provides a contextually pleasing street presence and a pleasant pedestrian walkway experience as well. Here's a rendering of the proposed development. Commissioners, over 100 years ago, multifamily buildings were being interspersed in stately neighborhoods like Lowry Hill, Kenwood, The Wedge, and others. Today, that housing stock is still desirable and yields high utility. That is our goal with the Washburn House. Once again, thank you for the consideration, and do you have any questions?
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant? All right, we'll go Ford and then Emmerich.
You began by saying that you mentioned the terms to eliminate disparities and to deal with affordable housing. I'm trying to see how this responds to those 2 issues.
Sure. It's different types of housing. It's not just affordable housing.
You said affordable.
That is the goal. It's affordable and accessible is the same goal.
These are all market rate, correct?
Pardon me?
These are all market rate units?
Correct.
Yeah.
And someone asked earlier about the unit matrix. The first floor is all 2 bedrooms. The second floors are predominantly, the second and third floors predominantly 2 bedrooms with 2 1-bedroom units. And then the 4th floor has 2 3-bedroom units and 1 2-bedroom unit.
And one other question I had was, you mentioned also that there was, you referred to the 42-foot setback from curb to the building line of your proposal.
And that is not related to any variance. That was just to use
I understand.
Lyndale as another example.
I was going to ask you, what's the point of saying that?
Just that the way this parcel is platted is strange, and that the property line is not anywhere close to the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you. Oh, okay, one more. Commissioner Marwa.
Yes, thank you to the applicant for your presentation. I have a quick question. In our packet and a lot of the comment, there was note that the number of units would decrease because of this variance. Is that true? That is, it says that in our public
No,
comment packet.
it is not true.
Okay, it's
It
just
would be
the
20
4,
units.
they would become smaller from the front, and it would be the 4 parking stalls.
Correct.
Okay. And by how many square feet would the unit size decrease if you had to comply with this variance?
I don't know for 4, nothing at all would change. 2 and 3, I'm not positive. For the 4 townhomes facing Lindale, it would be 1.5 feet per unit.
Okay. So really the impact is more so on the 4 parking stalls would be lost for those 20 units, basically, of housing.
And I also think contextually, when you look at how it fits with everything, it will seem oddly placed further back than it should be.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Alper?
Thanks. Yeah, you mentioned a back of sidewalk setback, and I got a little confused. Could you go back to that, maybe in your slides, or talk to us more
Sure,
about
the
that?
measurements I was saying that we should think of are maybe back of curb. What I was referencing with back of sidewalk is most of the time property lines are on the back of sidewalk, and in this case, they're not.
So, okay, just so that I'm clear. So are you saying that your property includes the sidewalk? Like the
No,
sidewalk
our property steps
encroaches-
back. For example, one of these other properties here, that property there, their property line is where that retaining wall is. On the subject parcel, the property line is 4 feet behind the sidewalk, the back of sidewalk.
Could you go back? Is there a map?
Yeah. You know how to make this bigger? Thanks. Thank you.
So is it like there's a little extra boulevard, but on the wrong side of the sidewalk that's the city's?
For lack of a better explanation, yeah.
Okay.
You can see where the property line is, and then the lawn in front of it on the 50th Street elevation.
Do you know why that is? Is that because
I
of
have no
the
idea.
platting,
The lot-
or?
It was 3 lots at one point. Maybe that has to do with it. There used to be an alley. I don't think that has anything to do with it. But it's the same thing on the Lindale side as well. And it's actually the same thing across the street and on one of the elevations of, I forget if it's 5,000 or the one on the 4,900. But they're just not set like city lots normally are. I don't know why.
Okay, thanks.
Kimberly?
Just to clarify, it's typical for there to be some green space behind the sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the property line. There's utilities in that area, other city functions in the right-of-way. So it's, I'd say, more typical for there to be about 1.5 feet or 2 feet of space between the sidewalk and the property line. The property line is very rarely at the sidewalk.
All right, I'm not seeing any more questions from, Commissioner Baxley.
Sorry. One more. Todd, I mean, it's interesting that the city is okay with reducing the variance for the reverse yard on the corner to be respectful of the adjacent house. It would seem odd. Yet, when we consider the corner, as you've described, there's varying sort of setbacks of which you were. Could you talk a little bit about how you started the design of this? Like, did you back into that realization, or was it more about, I'm understanding this corner well, I'm going to set up a boundary for a project and build? So could you talk about?
I apologize, Commissioner Baxley. I was trying to shrink this
Yeah.
so we could look more at it, and I didn't catch the beginning of that question. Can you just?
I'm interested, but we've got different zoning things sort of colliding here in a corner, and we're having a discussion about what's appropriate in terms of variances, what makes a neighborhood. So the city is willing to grant you a relief from the corner to the adjacent residence by not making you go 30 feet. You're going to do 15 feet. So I'm curious.
Well, really, if you read the updated zoning code,
Right.
it's debatable whether it's a variance or not. It seems to me this makes sense, and if you would look at what I reference as
Aligning with the-
54850,
Yes.
the way you would determine setback in that case
Right.
would just be discount the house adjacent to it
Right.
and look at the rest of the houses on that street.
Right.
And if you look and we are aligned with those houses,
Right. So that's my question, because jumping to the other side of the street, other side of Lindale, you're making a case that we're aligning with that property as well. That's why we're outboard of our property line, and thusly across the street, we have a similar setback. So, we have a corner relationship that is talking about similar relationships between curb and building everywhere. So I'm just curious, from your design team, is that something that you recognized right away and set up a boundary on the house and built to it? Or is this something that sort of backed into, like, hey, I need units this big and I'm gonna?
no, it wasn't a unit sizing at all. It was, well, first, we thought the way it made sense previously before the new zoning came out, in looking at the 50th Street east of Lindale,
Right.
how you determine that line would be looking at what the other houses were. So it started there. But then, if you walk all four of them and look at what it feels like and how tight they are on the other side of the street, it's like we're almost going to be like too far back if you would do what the 10-foot thing is. And then further, on the east side of Lindale, both of those properties could, if they're redeveloped, and I'm not saying they would, have 0-foot setbacks. So it'd be even a more jarring contrast.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Emmer?
I just want to thank you for having 3-bedroom units. As a renter in Minneapolis with a family, it's so difficult to find 3-bedroom units in multifamily housing, and they're badly needed. And so that was what I wanted to say. As a representative here from the Minneapolis Public School Board, our families need housing if we're going to retain them in our school district. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that's the last one. Last call. No. All right, thank you. We'll move on to our public hearing for this item. So if anyone wants to speak on this item, you can come up to the podium. You'll have 2 minutes on the timer. You can state your name and neighborhood for the record and proceed with your comments.
My name is Randy Bell. I live in the Lyndhurst neighborhood, and I previously owned the property that is visible in this discussion right here at 4949 Aldrich, this property in the upper left-hand corner of the view. I have a couple concerns about this property, but I'll speak specifically to what is discussed today regarding the variance. My most critical concern is the fact that this is called the Washburn House. In the neighborhood are 2 schools, both Washburn and Justice Page Middle School. As indicated, there's a 120-foot sidewalk that runs from the corner of the property to the entrance of the parking garage on 50th Street. There is not enough setback to put snow 6 months out of the year, and pedestrian traffic will be inhibited during that time. Further, what was indicated was that the exhaust of the parking garage would come out in the northwest corner of the property. That is currently where there is a bus stop located on Lyndale Avenue. So no, it's not. It's right here on the property. It is in the front of the property on Lyndale Avenue, and that is right where there's a bus stop. So there would be additional pressure for clearing the snow from the bus stop on Lyndale Avenue, in addition to the 50th Street. Additionally, as was said, it was going to be a 20-unit property. As is known in the 2040 program, any property greater than 19 units requires affordable housing. This property will not have affordable housing, and on multiple facets is not in the spirit of things.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on this item? If so, you can come to the podium now.
Afternoon. Excuse me. My name is Jim Harwood. I live next door at 5009 Lindell Avenue South. Just want to, I did send a letter to staff and just wanted to reiterate my objection to the variances. I do believe these are completely caused by the project and not by the parcel. This parcel, as I mentioned, is a large parcel. It's greater than 11,000 square feet. It should fit with the context of the neighbors and with the zoning that exists today. So I think that it could be designed to easily accommodate the existing setbacks. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing for this item. Commissioners, is there any discussion or would anyone like to make a motion? Commissioner Ford?
I'll move adoption of the staff report.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, I'm not seeing a second. Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to be moving approval of both of the variances and the site plan review. So first, just some remarks about where it's located and how this meets the 2040 goals. You know, as was mentioned, it's very close to Washburn High School, Justice Page School. We want to allow more housing adjacent to schools, and having more 2- and 3-bedroom units is particularly helpful to that. This is on a major corridor, close to a grocery store, lots of different amenities nearby here. I think the first variance, the one that staff recommended approval for, is very straightforward. That's the type of variance that we've granted quite a few times in other contexts. For the second variance, I believe that one is also justified on the same basis of the irregular platting and by the higher level of distance from the sidewalk than standard. So I will move the approval of both variances and the site plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's see. Are you still wanting? Okay. Is there any more discussion on that? Or Commissioner Meyer, do you have findings or?
I believe I made them for the practical difficulty anyway.
Okay.
And then I guess, you know, in the staff report for that one, I think they also said it was inconsistent with neighborhood character to some extent, but I don't agree with that. I think there are other properties nearby that it would be consistent with, you know, on both Lindale and on 50th. So I would find that it is consistent with neighborhood character.
Okay. Commissioner Baxley, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just trying to add a little more meat to those findings, and because I do think the issue of the context matters here, where we have one property that is zoned a certain way that's dictating a variance that is potentially inconsistent with character and relationship of buildings that exist in all three corners. So if we could sort of pose that as not necessarily a practical difficulty, but recognizing support of the existing character in the neighborhood, I would be comfortable with that.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll just say I agree with the commissioners who have spoken so far. I think that it was frustrating for me to hear you talk about staff being difficult as we go through these comprehensive plan changes. So I just want to say I'm going to support it, but next time I hope that that doesn't happen. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll call the motion or call the roll. All right, call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
Aye.
Baxley.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Emmerich.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Koski.
Aye.
Marwa.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
I have 8 yeas and 1 nay.
All right, that motion passes. All right, and we can move on to our final item for the evening, which is item number 12. At our last meeting, the commission agreed to take additional public comment on item number 12. This isn't an official public hearing. We'll be, again, just like all of our other public hearings, limiting comments to 2 minutes. So you'll be on the timer. There are a lot of you. And so that way everyone gets a chance to speak, and we're not here for the next 5 hours. So if you would like to speak on item number 12, oh, I think we have a list, actually. I'm going to call your name. Thank you. All right, so I've got 17 people on this list, and there's more. Okay, excellent. So we'll start with Steve Pedrain.
Hi, I'm Steve Pedrain. I represent the Minnesota Lath and Plaster Bureau. I'm from Coon Rapids. I have been asked to define barrier eaves and eaves with drainage because CPED staff does not differentiate between the two. The building code recognizes two distinct systems, barrier eaves and eaves with drainage. Both are similar to stucco in that they are comprised of Portland cement and are reinforced by a specially treated fiberglass mesh, much like lath. What differentiates it from stucco is that it has been engineered to be installed over insulating foam board. Hence, it is very light at 1.6 pounds per square foot and is non-structural and non-load bearing. The foam board in general is adhered directly to the substrate, but it can also be mechanically attached. Adhesion has been recognized as the better alternative because it doesn't puncture the substrate and it more evenly restrains the foam board stresses, which dimensionally want to move around slightly. By contrast, today's eaves with drainage incorporates a redundant fluid-applied water-resistant barrier over the substrate that does not impede the adhesive attachment of the foam board. This method also provides channels in back of the insulation board that allow for the release of bulk water that may bypass the system at vulnerable interfaces such as windows. By the early 1990s, barrier eaves had been installed on thousands of commercial properties. Locally, it has been illustrated that barrier eaves have an average service life well in excess of 20 years, with several exceeding 40 years. It is only since 2009 that the building code has mandated special inspections for barrier eaves. Barrier eaves, in fact, was considered robust enough to accommodate normal moisture. That changed when it began to be used where it had not been used before in coastal areas with heavy rainfall and wind. This led to the development of eaves with drainage, which substantially improves a building's water resistance, increases its service life more than twofold, and does not require a code-mandated special inspection. As a whole, eaves with drainage was formally introduced in 1995 and have been the primary eave system since approximately 2005. To recap, it is comprised of a fluid-applied water-resistant barrier, drainage, which releases incidental.
Okay, thank you. All right, up next we have Marcia Elsmont. Maria?
Good afternoon. My name is Marcin Naisman. I'm with Tremco Construction Products Group, also known as Dryvid. So part of the water-resistant barrier, this is actually a uniquely formulated coating that's being installed behind most of the building envelope claddings. It's highly water-resistant. It's actually UV protected. It meets the standards for water-resistant barrier as well as been in use since 1995. It also meets an ASTM testing that's been part of the standard building envelope requirement tested for the industry, particularly when you talk about the residential and commercial buildings. Additionally, I'm not sure if this is broadcasted, but however, there are multiple types of cladding in today's construction buildings, right? There are 4 separate systems depending on your building, right? There's a water-resistant barrier, there's insulation, there's cladding attachments, and then finally there's cladding, which typically consists of a traditional construction building. When you talk about eaves with drainage system, it's a single system component, right? You've got a water resistive barrier, you've got your insulation material, as well as your finished cladding. Hence, the eaves with drainage system combines all these different components into one cladding. Thank you.
Thank you. AIM Lutz, Amy?
I'm Ann Lutz. I'm a lifelong Minneapolis resident. I live just across the river at LaRive Condos. I'm also owner of the Lutz Company, which is a Minnesota distributor of Dryvid eaves. This slide shows data from one local supplier of eaves, my company. It is a subset from our database listing projects with verified locations in Minneapolis and the surrounding metro area that were installed over 25 years ago and are still performing. Note that they are all barrier eaves, the original eaves. This data indicates that the service life of barrier eaves is well over 20 to 25 years. As you can see, we're showing numbers of buildings that are still exist today from 25 years up to greater than 40 years. We, our company, introduced Dryvid eaves with drainage systems in Minnesota in 2003, and since then have supplied close to 8 million square feet of these systems in the state of Minnesota. Today, we supply exclusively eaves with drainage. It is a proven system. To put a few names to the numbers shown here, Minnesota-based companies that have used eaves with drainage on their buildings are Toro, Lunds & Byerly's, Dryvid Corp., Target Corp., Best Buy, Medtronic, U.S. Bank, Cub Foods, Polaris, to name a few. We would encourage the commission to reject the exterior guidelines as written. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Schremp.
Eric Schremp, former Minneapolis resident. As Ann pointed out in our previous speakers, the barrier eaves, we're looking at a 25-year service life. The checkered graph on the top there would be if we were to add drainage with it. So you could take barrier eaves in its historical function, and we could double the life with drainage. For the last 20 years here in Minnesota, locally, we've been putting on drainage behind our eave system. We would expect our eaves to last 100 years, which would be consistent with fiber cement, metal panel, and of course, masonry being even greater. So just want to encourage the commission to reject the current proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Thiel.
Hi, my name is Chuck Thiel. I'm with American Construction Supplies. We're the Synergy Eaves distributor for Minnesota, the Dakotas, and western Wisconsin. I want to have you guys recognize the difference between eaves and eaves with drainage that the CEPD's code, their staff report did not. The report makes no distinction between the two, and it represents a service life for barrier eaves and not eaves with drainage. The report falsely states the jurisdiction restricts eaves when in fact they restrict barrier eaves. So I want to touch on both of those last two comments. They said in their slide report that they started restricting eaves in 2014. It was brought up, it was voted on, it never passed. It was brought up again in 2021, it was voted on and didn't pass. So really, they've been unfairly discriminating against eaves all that time. And now they're proposing to restrict us, saying that it's less restrictive, when in fact any restriction is going to be more restrictive than it ever was. Next slide. The failures were not related to eaves. In their report, they put a picture of a building that had all kinds of issues. They said it was eaves, when in fact it was stucco, it was vinyl siding, and it was brick. It had all issues except ours. But that's what they were saying, that they attributed to the failures of our product, when in fact it wasn't you and us involved. So I too would also encourage the commission to reject the proposed exterior cladding that that the panel has put in front of you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Lutz.
Good evening. My name is Tim Lutz. My wife and I own a local eaves distribution company. I'm a 43-year resident of Minneapolis and live across the river at Larive Condominiums. Eaves with drainage operates as a rain screen. Eaves with drainage uses a special notch trowel that applies the adhesive vertically. This keeps the insulation away from the wall and allows moisture to exit the system. Adhesives are successfully applied in many claddings. Sealants, modified cements, adhesives in tubes and sausage, peel and stick tapes are just a few that are used on wall systems. In 42 years of selling and promoting Dryvit or eaves and eaves with drainage in the Twin Cities, we have not had any eaves adhesive failures. This is due to quality applications and properly designed buildings that use eaves and eaves with drainage. In 2014, the City Planning Department tried to restrict eaves that went before the planning process. This was evident when I went to the city to find out why eaves couldn't be used on a project, and no one could give me an answer. Always saying that they didn't have a problem, but you should talk to this person. That person would then say the same thing. This has caused our business in the city of Minneapolis to slow over the years, and worse, architects were told unofficially that the city of Minneapolis wouldn't allow it. In 2021, the staff unsuccessfully tried to recommend a ban on eaves in the city, but was rejected. Now in 2023, the staff is pretending to rewrite the classification to include eaves, but is actually restricting it even more by saying it can be used on tops of buildings as long as it's not in the proximity of the public realm and can only be used on less than 5%. There has been no compelling case for its restricted use. This restriction is arbitrary and has absolutely no data to back any of the staff's claims. We encourage the commission to reject the exterior guidelines as written.
Thank you. Bill Zintel. Zintel.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Bill Zintel. I represent Zintel Incorporated, a local plastering and EIFS contractor. To kind of put in context what Tim was saying, so the staff started out with 2021 classification scheme, and that was to ban EIFS on all projects and buildings. It was admitted that it was flawed and then not approved. Where that puts us today in 2023 scheme here is still largely based on material classification, but it's limited to EIFS of less than 5% on the total wall surface area, which is a small factor. For them to say it's allowed on a trim or accent or tops of building, from what I see as a contractor, is a very minimal scope of work for us to bid and to possibly perform on projects in Minneapolis here. When most jurisdictionals restrictions on EIFS or barrier EIFS is usually no more than 30%. I'd like to also talk about some of the things that the staff report cited regarding New York City. First of all, it was misrepresented. The failures in New York City pertain to barrier eaves, not EIFS with drainage. The report also implies that inspection requirements are not relevant to EIFS with drainage as well. It implies that defects and poor workmanship are exclusive to EIFS when they are not. They're prone to all other systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Doggett.
Hi, I'm Steve Doggett. Thank you. Along the way in this process, several important terms have not been defined throughout the entire process. One of those important terms is durability. Durability speaks to the greater assembly, not just to the exterior building cladding or exterior building material. It's not just the exterior skin or the cladding, is what I'm saying. This perfect example is shown here. It's a building right down the road, River West condos. We're talking about a building less than 35 years old. The brick is already being removed. As a forensics expert, 25 years, I see this on a regular basis. This is nothing new. I urge you to reconsider what you're considering here in regulating eaves. This is another building you should be very familiar with, US Bank Stadium. At a price of $1.1 billion, before the first game was even played in this building, $21 million in repairs. Why? Failures. Failures due to 3 layers, not just the exterior metal cladding, but also the exterior water-resistive layer and the thermal layer. So again, it's not just about the exterior skin of the building, it's about the greater assembly here. On top of that, $21 million, you know what that buys? That's 100 affordable homes. And that's what we really should be concerned with here. It's not so much regulating eaves versus barrier eaves. I have several recommendations here, including differentiating eaves with drainage from barrier eaves, removing all restrictions from eaves with drainage. If you want to regulate eaves, barrier eaves, that's another matter altogether. But without differentiating the terms, we really are at 2 completely different systems here. Thirdly, state criteria for impact resistance. There's been a lot of talk about the public realm, being close to the public realm. That means nothing. We need criteria. So I urge you to reconsider and to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Avalbon, you can say, okay.
It's a hard one.
Okay.
All right, sorry, I just have to exit out of this. Okay. So my name is Katie Svalbar. I'm part of Synergy. We're part of Sika, and we're another eaves manufacturer here in Minneapolis. I office out of our Shakopee location, but I live in Southwest Minneapolis, in the Kenny neighborhood. So today, I'm going to take a little bit step aside from the technical details and just talk a little bit more about the versatility and beauty that eaves can offer Minneapolis. So beyond just maybe the traditional stucco look that you all might be familiar with. So the cladding types we see most commonly in the market today, we see stucco, brick, wood siding, metal, and stone. Many times, as we heard previously or earlier tonight, these claddings are used together on one building, and all of these aesthetics can be achieved with eaves. So starting with brick, eaves can be used to create a brick look. That's what was used on this multi-clad senior living apartment building. The project originally called for traditional brick, and the switch to eaves not only saved the project budget, but it also reduced the amount of steel framing needed, and then also reduced the embodied CO2 per square foot. Next, we have a hotel that utilized an eaves stone finish to replace the use of real stone. Again, we'll see a material cost savings on this project, as well as a reduction in the embodied carbon due to that cladding switch. One of eaves industry newer innovation is the ability to create or mimic a wood look. So this would replace wood siding. Admittedly, in this case, according to the CO2 numbers that were presented by the Planning Commission, it wouldn't be wood siding has a lower embodied carbon per square foot, but it lacks the insulation and durability that eaves can offer, as well as providing that total package on the exterior facade. And then lastly, metal panel. Using EPS foam, base coat, mesh, and either a metallic coating or finish, you can achieve a really nice metal panel look, as seen in the example provided. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Sheila Gullickson.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Sheila Gullickson, and I work for Sika USA in Shakopee, Minnesota, which is a manufacturer of eaves products. I was born and raised in Minnesota and spent a lot of my career working in downtown Minneapolis, along with living in Uptown for many years. My testimony today will focus on eaves reusability solutions and the flexibility that eaves drainage offers designers. Based on the proposed cladding guidelines, traditional brick and masonry are highly recommended options, but they come with the highest carbon emissions. Though long-lasting, they offer low energy efficiency. For a brick or stone look, EIFS uses thin brick or stone over continuous insulation. This system reduces carbon emissions and increases energy efficiency while being highly durable. Not only is it lower in embodied CO2 versus traditional brick exterior, EIFS is much lighter, allowing for a reduction of framing, another major contributor of embodied CO2 emissions. The insulation layer in EIFS systems increases energy efficiency and manages the loss of operational carbon. As you can see, EIFS offer a variety of exterior options while being energy efficient and sustainable. I wanted to touch on how EIFS are used in restoration projects as well. In some cases, exterior restoration is the best option to increase energy efficiency. Depending on the building's existing structure, it can also be the most sustainable option. This abandoned Wells Fargo building was repurposed for a community library. The existing building was overclad with EIFS and added onto, instead of being torn down. Adding EIFS allowed for the visual transformation as well as an energy efficient upgrade due to the addition of continuous insulation. Similarly, this lodge in South Dakota was completely transformed with EIFS when purchased by the Hampton Inn. In closing, I ask the commissioners to reject the guidelines as proposed. Not allowing EIFS to be used in the city of Minneapolis will take away an aesthetically versatile option for residential and commercial construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Barry Lassiter, maybe.
Hello, my name is Barry Lassiter. I'm the Research and Development Manager for Sika Corporation, a global leader in building and construction materials based in Shakopee, Minnesota. Our advocacy for the use of EIFS comes from proven data of its efficacy concerning sustainability, energy efficiency, and CO2 reductions. New York Passive House, a vanguard in sustainable building practices, aligns with our viewpoint, championing EIFS as a pivotal solution to achieve ultra-low energy consumption objectives in buildings. With energy efficiency, EIFS demonstrates unparalleled capabilities by offering continuous insulation as a fundamental part of the system, allowing architects to meld design flexibility with compliance to the most stringent energy codes while also lowering CO2 emissions. Its lightweight characteristics requires less steel framing compared to other materials like brick. Given the high carbon output associated with steel manufacturing, this difference is significant. Durability and aesthetic versatility are intrinsic to EIFS. EIFS can be engineered to withstand even hurricane-level conditions, as evidenced by tests per Miami-Dade County standards. With a myriad of aesthetic options, including finishes that mimic brick and stone, EIFS allows for the realization of exteriors that are durable, energy efficient, and aesthetically pleasing. Sika Corporation strongly opposes any exclusion or ban of EIFS in Minneapolis, and as such, we implore the Commission to reject the guidelines as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Conrad.
Hi, I'm Sean Conrad. I run a company that specializes in EIFS and other wall assemblies located and based at 308 West 59.5 Street in Minneapolis. Our company has called Minneapolis its home since 1927 when stucco was our main source of business. The company has assisted in the build of thousands of facades throughout the Twin Cities. In our long history, I am unaware of any EIFS project failing that we were a part of. Furthermore, I know of many we built during the 80s and 90s that remain fully functional to this day, including our own office building. While I realize there are EIFS buildings that have failed prematurely, I contend through my 25 years of experience in the building industry that EIFS performs and often endures as well as any other cladding, if not better. We've been hired and directed by architects to use EIFS to fix failed claddings of all types. This past summer, we improved a failing brick church in Roseville, in which American Engineering and Testing approved EIFS with drainage as a most viable solution to fix the structure's leaking brick. My office staff, sitting right here, attended a Union Carpenter Leadership Conference in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. At this seminar, we listened to building scientists' lectures They stated EIFS with drainage as the perfect exterior wall cladding, which is especially remarkable considering union carpenters don't directly benefit from nor apply EIFS. This potential building ordinance threatens our company and the livelihood of many in attendance here tonight. People who have dedicated their lives to this trade. Eliminating EIFS as an option in any form will make it more costly and difficult to fix our buildings, and it will eliminate jobs in Minneapolis. Please don't do that.
Thank you. Joe Fowler.
Hello, I'm Joe Fowler. I'm the business manager of Laborers Local 563. We have an office currently in Northeast Minneapolis, and we're actually going to be relocating down next to US Bank Stadium here over the next 6 months to our new home in between 6th and 7th Street. Our local represents over 10,000 members, many of which work and live and reside right here in Minneapolis. Between ourselves and the plasters, hundreds of which who install this type of a product, and it is a great product. So restricting this and taking the recommendation of the planning staff would affect the jobs which are provide living wages, benefits, and the ability to retire with dignity away from our members, forcing them to reskill, retrade, and retool for a different part of the industry when I think it's unnecessary. And the reason I think it's unnecessary without trying to belabor the issue too much is I believe that the ordinance or the proposed ordinance is poorly researched and done with individual mindset towards the durability of this product. One of the things that was pointed out that started the planning staff on having the restrictions on the EIFS was that they went to a project where they were able to stick their pen through the EIFS installed project or substrate and cladding material. I don't think you could do that to any of the ones that are out here, and I would invite any of you to try to stick a pen through the cladding material examples that are out in the hallway. The other thing that I would say is durability. You can get 50 years out of EIFS with drainage, which is a separate system than the barrier EIFS, and we would encourage you guys to require EIFS with drainage. Better product. That being the case, it outlasts many of the other cladding products. It has a lower carbon footprint and a higher insulation value. It has the durability and it has a lower cost, so it helps with the affordability and the aesthetics. You can make it look like anything. So with that, I would ask that you guys reject the planning staff's recommendation to restrict the use of EIFS. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Seth Schrader. Schroeder?
Schrader, spelled Schroeder, pronounced Schrader. Let's not get into that. Hi,
Got
Seth
a little
Schrader.
piano back here. I can start playing for you. All right.
Business manager of Twin City Plasters, Local 265. We office in Minneapolis. I have got a great membership, highly skilled, highly trained. So we're talking jobs. We're talking competencies. I've got EIFS Smart Card. I've got a St. Paul Comp Card. These guys are so well trained, and we want to make sure that everything that's going on here is really being researched and we know what we're talking about. And I think that's kind of everything I got to say. Public speaking isn't exactly my favorite. So we've got a very highly skilled, highly trained workforce, and they live here, Minneapolis, all around here. These are your neighbors. These are the people you go to the movies with, you see at the grocery store. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tony Kaminsky.
Hi, I'm Tony Kaminsky, Vice President of Plasters Local 265. I began plaster, excuse me, in 1991. Since then, I've been on jobs, the Mall of America, Basilica St. Mary's, the dome above the altar. I've done all the ornamental there, just like you see here. What I've noticed in those years is the skill level of plasters going up, but the trades around us, their materials going down, especially caulking and roofing materials. That affects us, but it's always blamed on us. So I'd like to please reject the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Hamilton.
Everyone, my name is Dave Hamilton. I'm a contractor, retired contractor. My nephew, AE Conrad Company, I was in the trade, I was in the business for 40, well, I'm still messing around, 43 years. Personally been involved in over 200 EAFS projects that we've never had issue, never had problems. I'm also currently the president of the Minnesota Lath and Plastering Bureau. The Bureau is, and I would encourage you people to, we have a wonderful website, educational website. It's a technical organization funded by union contractors. And you see our union guys here, union plasters, union tenders. They've been trained, the contractors have been trained. We forever have seriously belonged in a huge amount of training to help our people, working with our suppliers. And they've been good at that. We know our product is a wonderful product, has to be run right. We do it right. That's our business. I've been doing it forever. You know, I'm not a young guy, I can see that. I've been involved in a lot of EAFS projects. It's a wonderful product, and I really encourage you folks to look at our website and vote no on the proposed project to restrict our product. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Hulman.
Hello, Pat Hellman, a building scientist and faculty member at the University of Minnesota. To keep this brief, I'll just start with, I think, the premise that Minneapolis wants to ensure more efficient and durable buildings, both new and existing, to meet your climate goals. I appreciate that now is not the time or place for a building science lecture. However, from my 40 years of experience and research, I can assure you that continuous exterior insulation is and will be an important approach for high-performance buildings. Unlike simply adding more cavity or interior insulation, this approach can substantially improve energy efficiency while also enhancing structural durability and resilience. Compared to more traditional building systems, continuous exterior insulation does change things as it relates to proper water management and exterior finishes. In that regard, it's important to keep all exterior insulation techniques and all exterior cladding and finishing systems on the table. This past year, the University of Minnesota sponsored 2 student teams to compete in the Department of Energy's 2023 Solar Decathlon Design Challenge. The overall goal for that competition is a high-performance, net-zero energy building that addresses proper moisture management, indoor air quality, and environmental concerns, including embodied carbon. Not surprisingly, both teams employed continuous exterior insulation, and they won first and second place in their respective divisions. The U's Phillips Regen team, one of 120 international teams, went on to win the overall grand prize. They developed a comprehensive and beautiful retrofit of an abandoned and deteriorated brick masonry building that sits at 628 East Franklin. The team's building enclosure retrofit strategy was a dual strategy, using an innovative interior water management system and spray foam to preserve the historic Chester brick south-facing front facade. However, for the heavily worn utility brick on the northeast and west sides, they used a drainable EAFS system that allowed for much higher insulation levels without compromising the structure, and was key to meeting the competition's architectural, net zero energy, environmental durability, and resilience goals.
Thank you. Jeff Sykes.
What happened? All right, we're going to change it a little bit, but I want to see that sign. EAFS on thousands of buildings in Minneapolis, and you don't even know it. We started doing masonry veneer back in '95 in Europe. The Stowe Corp did. Here's one in New York City. Again, it looks like a thin brick, correct? Here's one in not too far away, your neighbor, Elmwood. Mr. Zentel's team did it. You see the top of the building? It's typical EAFS. You have a brick below the windows, and then you have Coulter stone on the columns. What do all those buildings have in common? They're all EIFS. So you can take an EIFS panel. You have your yellow there is your fluid applied. Your adhesive is your drainage plane. You have your foam insulation. Everything everybody's talked about. You have your base coat mesh. And then we can adhere a thin brick, culture stone, all these other products. Because if you are a masonry city, fine, we have that. We have that options. EIFS is one of the most versatile claddings you can put on a building. This gentleman's older than me, but I've been doing this for over 35 years. I hope he's older than me, right? So all I can say is when you look at energy efficiency, drainage system, you have one source warranty from the sheathing out. And a lot of times you have one tradesman doing all the work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Terry Vaness.
Thank you. I'm Terry Vinus. I'm with Stowe Corporation. We're an East manufacturer. And I'm a senior senior technical manager at Stowe Corp, excuse me. I've been working for Stowe for over 27 years. And my role there is to test our products and to verify that they comply with building codes, and also to help make sure that they meet our customers' expectations as far as durability, as far as aesthetics, as far as all the great things you've heard about them already tonight. So I guess, I want you to, I'm here mainly to reassure you that as manufacturers, not just Stowe, but all my competitors, I know that we've done our homework on our own materials. We know they're durable. I'll let other guys talk about specifics of that. But we know they're durable. We've got code reports that support that. We've got tons of projects that support that. We want you to continue to give your designers and your plan reviewers the opportunity to consider these products and not take that away by just an administrative decision. So with that, I'd like to encourage you to reject the building material proposal that's before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Sears.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Sears, and I am the Executive Director of EMA, the association advocating for the EIFS industry. I'm here to speak along with many of our affiliates to advocate for the continued use of EIFS in Minneapolis. EIFS are a key tool and a crucial input for renovation and new construction. Affordable housing is a cornerstone of equitable communities, and EIFS energy and cost effectiveness are indispensable for building more units. Reducing the cost of heating and cooling directly translates into more accessible and sustainable living options for all, which is one reason why EIFS is frequently used in buildings that seek to mitigate the effects of climate change. In fact, the U.S. Department of Energy recognized Ornest Plaza in Mankato as a better building when EIFS was used to reclad a 40-year-old concrete panel building, reducing energy costs by 25%. In envisioning a resilient tomorrow, EIFS' superior insulation and design engineering act as a protective shield, enhancing a structure's ability to stand robust against climate events and extreme weather conditions, and reinforces a sustainable approach to long-term development. These are some of the reasons why Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, Habitat for Humanity, and many other groups you heard of today incorporate EIFS into high-profile designs regardless of location. And according to RS Means, the globally recognized cost construction firm, EIFS are far more cost-effective than traditional heavyweight cladding materials like brick, stone, precast, and curtain wall. In sum, EIFS is strategically aligned with the city's goals of affordable housing, climate action, aesthetic principles, and performance. Therefore, we urge the Commission to allow EIFS on all parts of the building and reject the materials guidelines as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Egan.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Egan from the Bill Egan Group. I'm a construction consultant. Previously, I was employed for over 35 years in technical and engineering roles for an EIFS manufacturer, actually here in Minnesota. I just have two items I want to talk about briefly today, durability and EIFS with drainage systems. And some of these things you've heard before, but I want to kind of go into a little more detail. On the durability side, there's more than 40 tests that EIFS manufacturers run on their products to show durability and how they perform in terms of wind, rain, impact, fire, just to name a few. And we've talked a little bit today about Miami-Dade testing and impact testing. I have a quick video here, if you can just bear with me for 1 minute, kind of give you an example of some of the tests that we undergo here for these systems. Hopefully this is not too loud. It's a missile coming out of a cannon. Whoops. Okay, I did turn the volume down, but in any event, that's a 2x4 shot out of an air cannon at 50 feet a second. And, you know, I live in Florida, South Florida. You've got to run that particular test in order to meet the standards that are down there. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was application methods and drainage systems and barrier wall systems. We've talked about these things a little bit, but I thought a graphical example might help. So up on the left-hand corner is the barrier systems. And you can see there's no water-resistant barrier, no gap between the system and that yellow layer there. So any water gets managed on the outside. On the right-hand side is an example of the drainable systems. So when they, by the red arrow, you can see there's a drainage gap. That yellow section there is a water-resistant barrier. So any water that gets past the EIFS system drains out the bottom. And if you look at conventional systems, is that me?
That's you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Jacob Steen.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Jake Steen with Larkin Hoffman, and we represent the Safe Building Materials Association of America. And our members include LP Louisiana Pacific, which makes LP SmartSide. We have, throughout this process, continued to object to these guidelines as arbitrary and capricious. These are not based in science or analysis. These are not related to the health, safety, and public welfare. These are aesthetic guidelines. These guidelines purport to consider sustainability, durability, and affordability, but they come to a puzzling outcome, particularly with respect to LP SmartSide, which is an engineered wood product. With respect to sustainability, LP SmartSide is a carbon negative product. This is a product that is grown in Minnesota, manufactured in Minnesota, and regrown in Minnesota during the life of that product. With respect to durability, we disagree with this being characterized as a less durable product, and LP SmartSide has a 50-year warranty. And all of that leads to affordability. This is engineered wood across the board, including LP, is one of the most affordable cladding products available, far more than glass, stone, or brick. And these arbitrary restrictions make affordable housing even less affordable. So we want you to consider these factors and reject these arbitrary restrictions, particularly with respect to engineered wood products. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan McConnell.
Thank you, Madam President. Dan McConnell, I'm business manager of the Minneapolis Building Trades Council, represent all the construction trades in the city of Minneapolis, and I just wanted to thank you for your time and listening to this. This is really in the weeds, right? And we could go on and on with technical experts talking about this for a long time, hoping we can prevent us from having to do that with every city council member in the mayor's office and reject these standards tonight and send them back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marcus Kazenga.
Thank you. I'm Marcus Kaisenka, representing James Hardy Building Products, one of the other materials that are considered under the guidelines. And I would just like to remind the commissioners that the guidelines that are currently in place are even far more restrictive than the ones that are being proposed. My company and others have worked with staff and others to get the guidelines to the place that they are now. And I would encourage the commissioners to not throw out the baby with the bathwater as you consider how to specifically deal with engineered wood and with EFS. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of my list of people signed up. I'll give you one more opportunity. If there's anyone who hasn't spoken who wants to speak, now is your chance. All right. In that case, we will end our public comment period. Commissioners, is there any discussion? Commissioner Camp? Oh, Commissioner Bexley?
Yeah, and can we ask questions of staff still at this point?
I believe so. They're here.
Sorry, I missed. Maybe if we could have staff just kind of go over again, sorry, I know you talked about this last meeting, and I apologize for not being here for that, but again, sort of reiterating the city's sort of history and position on EIFS material and how you've chosen to not or allow it on certain parts of the building and not on others.
Okay. So you would like to know the history again?
Yeah, and I just, I think we've talked about this a lot. We've seen some movement. We've heard a lot of great testimony. The product has transformed over the years, shedding a lot of its previous issues. So maybe just talk about where the city is on it at this point.
Sure. So right now we have it still allowable at the top of the building and as an accent or trim material. So here's, as you can see, the timeline. Again, the 2014 guidelines, it was not allowed for use. Those guidelines were not officially adopted. They were used. So you can look back at staff reports and see the percentages of breakdown for all the buildings. So at that time, so from 2014 until 2021, it was not allowed. And then it was the proposed 2021 regulations also did not include them in the regulations. So again, it was not allowed. But then for this, and that's how we originally had it as well. But then we decided to have it allowable at the top. That's similar to what Madison does. Again, a lot of the table, or the format at least, was based off of Madison. And so, did I get all your questions?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much. I'm just wondering on.
I just wanted to clarify one thing as well. I think during the presentation, or that prior, there was a 5% number that was thrown out, but that's not accurate. It's just allowable anywhere at the top or as an accent.
Okay,
trim.
good. Maybe you could talk about, is the city concerned about this material in terms of its performance? What is it exactly that, speaking as a design professional who's been doing this for almost 40 years too, a lot of stigma around EIFS, even aesthetically. Mm-hmm. So, but the performance has gotten there. The issue in terms of a drainable system, it's a high-performing system. So I'm wondering why the city, we're letting it a little bit. Did you foresee in 10 years it'll be more okay? Is it a testing period? What is it that's preventing?
I think the main reason that we haven't differentiated barrier EIFS versus the new EIFS with drainage is because we're not able to go out and require the type of installation that is done using EIFS. So there was some suggestions of if we let the EIFS with drainage, is that okay? We added this other guideline that says the implementation of moisture mitigation systems where feasible is encouraged. So again, having like a rain screen, but we're not able to physically go out and make sure that people are installing it. And I think we have seen in the past that people will say that they're going to do eaves with drainage, but it actually is the barrier eaves. And again, if you,
Yeah, sorry, just coming.
oh, yeah.
I mean, because we've, the whole reason we use drainable systems is to mitigate water, and we do it not only behind eaves, we do it behind wood, we do it behind metal. It's a pretty accepted. Do you inspect those installations as well? So you don't, but, okay. So potentially there's a bit of an issue there. If we're requiring, we know it's best practice, we want to drain the backside of all those materials. The same would be for eaves, right? Whether you can inspect it or not wouldn't be a reason necessarily to not allow the material from a performance standpoint, right? Yeah. Okay.
We'll do Campbell and then Marwa. Oh,
Is the issue that you are not allowed to require drainable eaves, or you can't be sure of enforcing drainable eaves?
We can't enforce it. So when we were speaking with, I'm sorry, Jason, do you have? Sorry? Yes, with Construction Code Services, we brought up eaves. And again, we asked, is this something that you're able to check? And they said that they don't really go to that fine of detail to check the building, so.
So we are potentially denying ourselves a better product because we're not sure we're not sure that it's really being installed. Or we can't be sure.
No, but I think again, the reason that we are hesitant to have it on is because, again, we have seen failures with it. Oh, and I just want to clarify that for the, I'm blanking on the name of the project that was mentioned earlier, that staff report was based off of material that was submitted by the project architect specifying that it was eaves. And so that's why that was in the staff report. And I did clarify during one of the meetings that it was in fact stucco.
Kimberly, did you have something you wanted to say down there?
Nope, that's just been up for a while. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Was it about this question?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You said that you looked at the Madison requirements. Why Madison?
Because when we were trying to come up with a new set of guidelines, we were given some directives to try to make these guidelines as flexible as possible and to get rid of the classification system that we had prior. So they had, like the way that the table is laid out, or not everything inside the table, but the table format, that is what we modeled after, and they had that eaves was allowed at the top or a trim or accent. But Madison is not the only city that has restrictions on eaves. I think Woodbury, Eagan, and there's other multiple cities that also have similar restrictions on it.
Okay, which commissioners have questions for staff, actually? Okay. All right, I don't think we have any more questions right now. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Emmerich.
Thank you. Going back to the timeline with the, yeah, thank you. So can you just clarify that I'm understanding correctly when you said the proposed guidelines from 2014, though never formally adopted, were still utilized? So there were not any projects in the city of Minneapolis that utilized eaves from the year 2014 through the year 2021, is that correct?
No, it is possible that it was used on different buildings. So if, let me just look this up. If the buildings are not subject to site plan review, then they would be allowed to use eaves.
Okay, and forgive my relative newness to the commission. How many building projects are not required to have a site plan review? Like a rough percentage? Is it like half? Is it a quarter? Is it 3/4?
Commissioner Emmerich, I can try to answer your question. So projects that come in that aren't subject to full site plan review would be things that are administratively approved with just a building permit. So the actual number of projects isn't something that I could necessarily quantify for you. I will say, though, anything that requires a zoning review, even if it's just a building permit, our zoning staff from the 2014 adoption until the 2021 on this timeline, we're also reviewing for materials, and we're trying to catch when EFS was proposed and making applicants change their permit plans to not include EFS. However, we became aware that often there would be a different material shown on plans, such as stucco, and that's what was being approved, but in the field, the actual material being applied to the building was EFS. So it likely does exist in the city. It was likely not approved that way. But I couldn't give you an exact number on how many projects that was.
No, I got you. That's really interesting. It makes me want to ask a question that I don't know how to form, which is something pertaining to relationship. Like, is there a relationship of mistrust or harm or contempt or something like that that exists around the use of EFS in Minneapolis? That's not probably a clear enough question for you to answer, but it's incredibly perplexing to me because that's the type of thing for me that I use to sort of inform my thinking. All right, my question that's more concrete about this not using EFS officially with projects that required a full site plan review from 2014 to 2021 is, what kind of an impact did that have on the landscape of building projects in Minneapolis?
Kimberly, do you?
So what kind of impact did the guidelines from 2014 have?
Yeah, did switching to not using EFS as of 2014?
You know, I think that's something that you could decide for yourself, I guess, in looking at the built environment around the city. Is our goal that whole time was to really achieve high quality, durable materials on sustainable projects throughout the city, particularly where those materials interacted at the public realm. And I think we were really successful in doing that. I think we have a lot of great examples across the city of projects that used exemplary exterior materials and durable buildings that are still standing today that were using those guidelines between 2014 and 2021.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Let's go, Campbell, do you want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
So just wanted to start by saying thanks to Medell and to Jason and all the other city staff who have worked on this. This is the fourth, I think, time we've gone through it, and I know it's been a lot of work for you, so thank you in advance for all of your time. I also want to say thank you to the people who are here today. I think we don't often hear from sort of a coordinated group of people in the way that we did today, and it was helpful for us as a commission. And always, one of the best parts of this job is coming without making a decision and hearing what we hear and helping that form one way or another. So thank you for coming to the meeting today. I come down to a couple of different pieces when it comes to this report. The first is that I still, at fourth meeting in, I'm still confused about whether we are using EFS and whether we are not. I've got a sign up here that says thousands of buildings in Minneapolis use EFS. And then I have other folks saying that we're using it against the ordinance and a variety of other things. So I would like to have more information about this because I don't feel qualified to support this until I have that answered. There have been previous charts that have been shown at other meetings that show EFS kind of right in the middle in a variety of different categories, whether it's climate resiliency, whether it's durability, whether it's aesthetics. Like, it always seems to fall right in the middle. It doesn't ever seem to be at the top. It doesn't ever seem to be at the bottom. And so for us as a city to be digging our heels in so strongly on this particular topic, when it doesn't seem to be an outlier in any certain way, seems perplexing to me. I can't wrap my head around why that's the case. I do believe that, and I know that this line of work is challenging because we do want to compare ourselves to like-minded cities, like-minded places. So comparing to Madison and others makes sense to an extent. I do think that we as a city need to align our sister city evaluations and our definitions of durability, aesthetic, other things to what we believe to be our goals. And I think in this case, from my perspective, building materials should align, number one, to climate resiliency, number two, to equitable use across the city, number three, for building more affordable housing for our residents. And so from what I've gathered today, my belief is that EIFS seems to be a building property that has evolved over time that would be beneficial for us as a city to be using more regularly across the city. And then lastly, I think what I'm hearing is that we are evaluating barrier EIFS sort of in a vacuum, unlike we are evaluating things like wood, brick, and others that we are assuming have drainage systems already applied to them. And so if we are going to do the same, which I don't think, in my opinion, we've done, I think the EIFS evaluation would be different. So I would support a motion to return this to staff and have more evaluation done on EIFS with drainage moving forward.
Can we just go down the line? You want to go next?
Yeah. Again, I think we're in an interesting point here, and I think staff has done really stepped into this. It's you know, we're a city that doesn't have a design review board. We try to handle these things sort of with 1 foot in the aesthetic realm, 1 foot in the sort of protection of the public sphere, but all based on a bit of subjectivity. And I think what's interesting about what I feel like's happening is we're diving into buildings that are performative from an energy standpoint, from a carbon standpoint, and allowing our designers and our owners and our developers bring forth ideas without restriction on what's appropriate and judged here, judged elsewhere, but not trying to be predictive about that. I still have faith in my fellow architects and designers that in the public realm, we're still going to have stone at the base of buildings. We're still going to have other materials there. But to not allow a high-performance material, which gets us towards the things that we need to from a performative standpoint, i.e. operational carbon, seems a bit misplaced at this time. So I think EIFS is a complicated system. It's got 8 layers to it. You have to be intentional about how you apply it. It's in cold climate can perform very well, but temperature is an issue. So, but there are other materials that have similar issues that we don't restrict as much. I think we suffer from its bad performance in the past. It has stuck with us. Insurance companies wouldn't allow us to use that in the past. We've moved past that. Whether you agree with what it looks like or not is really not the issue. So I think we could go back to staff to do that. I would encourage staff to be less restrictive on these materials and rely on the design community and the market and to kind of determine what's appropriate. This particular material has been proven to be effective from a performative standpoint, and so I think if we're moving more towards honoring and incentivizing performance, this would be a step towards that. So I would be supportive of allowing EIFS, not just on tops of buildings, but on buildings. Okay, thanks.
Alper? Yeah, I'm going to let Marwa go first and then me.
Hi, Medell. I have a quick question also about the EIFS with drainage that we've been hearing about. Is it possible to allow EIFS with drainage on all pieces of the building? I guess I'm still confused why you are not separating those two out.
Again, I think the thing is that we are not able to really put in one system over the other, and we're not able to regulate it or to check it.
Okay. So they're considered for our purposes the same. when you write EIFS. It's not, they're not separated.
Right.
It's two different types of materials or systems. Okay. And then my other question was kind of understanding more from, thank you all for your presentation today and being subject matter experts on this, which I am not, so I appreciate that. Understanding kind of, when you're thinking about kind of these insulation systems, dictating being only trim or being on the top part, you're already, creating the material, right? So why are we not allowing it on the full siding of a building? It's insulation at the end of the day that then you're putting different facades on. Am I getting this correct, right? Okay, there's a couple of nods behind you, so I'm following. So what we up here always want to see is visual interest in buildings. We want to see our built environment look creative and look interesting and be somewhere that we want to live, right? And I think some of these guidelines, when we're talking about them and dictating it can only be on trim or it can be on the top, it can be that, some of that's really just meant to be like what Commissioner Baxley is saying, is from the design community of how these buildings are designed. And so when we're dictating EIFS, which is an insulation material that can then look like different things, seems like we are nitpicking on a material that can look like different things already. Am I getting that correct? So I would be inclined to allow EIFS on all parts of a building. And I can make an amendment to that regard, if that makes sense to the commission.
Let's get through everyone's. Alper?
Alper.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really glad we had this discussion here tonight and the chance for our leadership team to be here. So I just want to say thank you to those of you who were willing to bring it back tonight, and thanks to all of you for your comment, which was very well organized, so I appreciate that. I'm new to this, but I think it really comes down to, from a technical perspective, but I think it really comes down to three things that I see in these guidelines. So we're looking at sustainability, affordability, and aesthetics. And so if you look at sustainability, frankly, I think these guidelines are pretty weak, as we've seen embodied carbon versus the carbon emissions. It got really kind of confusing, and then we decided to abandon that. And I think if we decide to pursue it again, I'd like to see us really, really pursue that climate resiliency aspect of it. It fits with the 2040 plan with that, done right. Growth can help our city become a healthy, sustainable, and thriving place for all. So sustainability, right there. A thriving place, affordable. And I want to get into that because I feel that this guidelines in many ways is creating a solution and then backing into the need, and we should be doing that the other way around. So when we look at affordability, I just want to read you a couple things from the racial equity impact analysis, and I think for me this is what really solidified it for me, that we need to reconsider here. So it says, let's see, the production of affordable housing advances racial equity. Absolutely. But then it goes on to say, using higher quality exterior building materials will positively affect BIPOC communities and will help the city achieve racial equity. I certainly would love to have a metal roof on my house, but when we got our roof redone, I went with regular shingles because they were cheaper. So, I am actually really concerned that we will be doing the complete opposite if we are not allowing EIFS. Because the argument made in these guidelines, if you read that part thoroughly, it says basically that more expensive materials will make housing more affordable. And the logic just completely doesn't follow. And that using more visually pleasing building materials will help BIPOC home ownership. So, certainly we all want a beautiful city, but I again stand with the fact that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so with that, it really solidifies me that these need more work, and I would like to make a motion to deny the text amendment to amend regulations related to the exterior building materials.
Right. Okay, so the motion is to stick with what we have, correct? Or it's to...
Yes, so I was advised by staff that the motion is to deny the text amendment to amend regulations related to exterior building materials. if I would like to, let me see, how did I pose it in my thing?
The whole thing.
To deny the whole thing.
Okay, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So you said you wanted to allow eaves, but the way I understand it, that would mean that we would stick with not allowing eaves. No?
I think we need to rethink these guidelines, and I would prefer that we base them in something that, again, is part of the goals of the very contentious 2040 plan, but it's currently what we're operating under. I think, or ultimately will try to be operating under, and I see sustainability in the title and a thriving place for all. I don't see aesthetics.
Can I add something quickly?
Go ahead.
Okay. So since the last planning commission meeting, I did not have a whole lot of time to reach out to many affordable developers, but I did reach out to the ones that I was able to. And none of them had any huge concerns about these guidelines. They said that they believed that overall this is a better version of the guidelines that we've had from previous years, and that they did not see it too detrimental to affordable housing. They also said that they are already using many of these high-quality products on their buildings because they don't have maintenance budgets in their funds. So the use of brick or stone or these other materials that we have in the guidelines, they're not too concerned about because they're already doing this. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you, Medell. Did you have anything else to add, Commissioner Alper?
Well, sure. I mean, I could keep reading from the racial equity impact analysis.
I'm not suggesting you have to, I just wanted to make sure you got your time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just feel that, if we shouldn't be backing into the need for these guidelines. If the guidelines that we're operating under right now aren't working, and we've been shown a better path forward, and the whole reason we returned this as a commission back to staff was about basing it in climate change and our goals around being more resilient on climate. And I completely am not seeing that except for one new line that was added. I mean, nothing has been changed in that regard. And so I would rather we jettison these guidelines, which are really regulations, so I don't know, debatable there, in favor of going a completely new direction. And if that means we stick around with what we've got for a little while longer, I mean, I'd rather have that than what we're going for.
We currently have nothing in place. I just wanted to clarify.
Say that again?
That we don't have any guidelines in place right now.
Okay.
So since we're having back and forth here, since we have no guidelines in place, I would take it up as a commission then that we should create a staff direction then that we go a certain way. And unfortunately, we don't have our city council member here, but I mean, certainly at the park board, one of our strategic directions is being bold on climate change, and this is not being bold.
Okay, hold on, everyone. So I think Marwa and Meyer and then Ford, if that's okay? All right.
I just wanted to, so I checked with my development team today. I do work for an affordable housing developer, Medell Artspace, about EIFS and their opinions on it. And they said we used it in Colorado as the full exterior envelope of the building with different design patterning that Artspace always does. And that's what we've been using in Colorado especially, was the developer I talked to. So for your perspective of talking to an affordable housing developer on it, I just wanted to relay that to you. I think staff has worked on a 145-page memo and has put this together after years and years of work. I would like to see us vote on something tonight and not just decline this entire building guidelines that we put in place. There's so much in here that's not just about EIFS that I think should be approved and we should move forward with. We've been wanting to have building guidelines for as long as I've been on the commission. I think this is a really great document. I think this one sticking point we can talk through and kind of discuss an amendment to, perhaps, if there's support for it. But I think I would be in support of not denying the whole building guidelines.
Okay, Commissioner Meyer.
First, some general comments. Thank you to everyone who came tonight and to everyone who sent us letters. I think I've gotten more feedback on this than any other issue in my time on the Planning Commission. And you have persuaded me in your direction. I'll tell you, my opinion has fluctuated on EIFS as we've been going through this. Some of the people who submitted letters intending to advocate for it had the opposite effect on me. They highlighted a lot of photos of big box suburban stores like Hy-Vee, Target, Mall of America. I think the Mall of America is the last thing I want the city to look like. But subsequently, in all these different packets and some of the presentations tonight, there are examples of a lot nicer or more urban fitting buildings. So I'm persuaded that EIFS is something that is very malleable. You can change it to what you want it to be. I'm also persuaded by the durability studies that were submitted and by the climate analysis that EIFS is a more durable product, or a more lower embodied carbon and better efficiency than some of the other materials that we allow. So I'm persuaded to allow EIFS. If we do that, and we would look at the chart of things that we're restricting, it gets awfully small with what's left that we're actually restricting. I have a motion later on, like if we proceed, if the motion on the table right now was to fail and we would proceed with the amendments, like I would have another amendment to allow wood at the base of buildings. So when you look at that chart and see what's left, it's like maybe vinyl, right, restricting vinyl. That seems to be about the extent of what we would do. So I personally think that I would just, where I'm at right now is to just say, let's reject this and then move on without any staff direction. There are a lot of other issues that I would really love to get staff working on, like legalizing corner lots that we discussed earlier. I think we should be looking at setbacks. Like there are certain kind of setbacks that we're allowing variances for pretty repeatedly. I think we should change the rules to accommodate that. So I think that we put a lot of time into this. I think it was valuable to do. I really do. I think we've learned so much more than we did before. But I think where I'm at is I would just say I support the motion as it is to not proceed. I wouldn't add any direction to it. So if Commissioner Alper is proposing to amend the motion to add direction, I would not second that. I would just say if there's a problem, a more demonstrable problem, like where we have stronger evidence and just really strongly feel like we have to fix it, then we can do that as that evolves. But at this time, I would just say the status quo that we've had for the last 2 years and prior to 2014 is fine to me, and I would leave it there. And if this motion does fail, then I will go through the 4 amendments that I brought up previously at Committee of the Whole.
All right. Commissioner Ford?
First of all, I don't think we have a motion before us yet.
We do. The motion is to deny the text amendment.
Was it seconded?
Yeah.
By whom? Okay, thank you.
Meyer.
Well, I'd like to argue against that. I support what Commissioner Marwa said. I think we need to move forward. I've certainly heard the arguments, and I don't think that the goal of my friend Commissioner Alper's can be achieved. We were told quite some time ago now that under the new situation of a strong mayor, weak council, that we were unable to give any direction to the planning staff. We were told that here, in that they work for the mayor. And as admirable as they are, we cannot give them instructions. So we cannot tell them to go back and write it again. I think we should act today, and if we don't like the plan, turn it down. If we like the plan, adopt it. But just sending it back and forth in the hopes that something will happen is not going to be productive, I don't think. And I support the notion of allowing EFS through amendment.
Commissioner Emmerich, did you have something else? Go ahead.
I need to say, I mentioned before I'm a renter. I'm a renter in a Section 42 HUD building using a Section 8 housing choice voucher. I've lived in Minneapolis my whole life. As an adult, I've lived in places with roaches, mice, bed bugs, ceilings cave in, taken my landlord to small claims court, never had housing stability. I can't imagine what it's like to care what the exterior of my home looks like. I can't imagine it. If I have a place that has heat, hot water, no pests, no mold, my babies are safe, right? And that's stable. I know that we are tasked with aesthetics. I know and I will show up and do that part of my job with the code and with the city charter. But people like me don't often get in seats like this. And I can't not say that I can't help but be grounded in the folks that I feel most compelled and committed to serve and who I consider my constituents. And so when Commissioner Alper says, maybe we need to really think about what is our direction, what is really important to us, what is really our goal if we are going to consider adopting this type of guideline, I think that there may need to be some refocusing because I have really benefited from and appreciated the experts that we've heard from today. I would also really like to hear from folks who most rely on affordable housing to understand what's most important to them in terms of what building materials are utilized for their housing. So I want to put that out there because I would be remiss if I didn't represent that perspective that's shared by so many folks in our city.
All right, Alper or Bexley and then Alper.
I hope we're going to vote on that, but I will say I think we should, that somehow when we say EFS, we're thinking that's the lowest common denominator in terms of material, and it's not. In many cases, it's more expensive than stucco or other systems. So I think don't equate EFS as a race to the bottom in terms of performance or aesthetics. I'm just sort of hearing a tone there. I just want to make sure that that's not the case. So I hope we'll vote on the motion.
Do you have one more thing before we vote? Okay.
Okay, I just want to say, as you think about this, I do think that this motion is taking action tonight. I think it's saying, no, let's talk about other more important things on this body. I mean, not to say that this isn't important, but that dictating what I really see as aesthetics is not the way we should be moving as a body. And the other things I want to clarify that I see that comments that I've received that I found troubling about what's currently in this, the need to define the base. Right now it's 1 to 6 stories, the need for clear process for alternative compliance, this issue of the city's construction code services department. So, I and their role in this. So these to me are additional reasons for stopping these guidelines where we're at. I know it means denying. It's not. I'm not saying that, returning it to staff is not quite where I was intending to go. I mean, I would be open to direction to the mayor to direct staff, but I'd rather pursue other things as a body. So. One last thing I want to read from the racial equity impact analysis. The intent of the guidelines is to provide design guidance for materials to ensure a quality, lasting, affordable, and beautiful urban built environment for all communities in the city of Minneapolis. We all desire beauty, but I think we need to refocus.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah, I just want to clarify for people what it is that we're voting on. So the motion, as stated, it didn't include any staff direction. It's just a straight denial. it will leave us with the status quo that we've had for the last 2 years and the status quo that we had prior to 2014. So, you know, it doesn't mandate that the staff, you know, do anything, but presumably, if we just drop this, then they'll be moving on to other things. But it doesn't give any direction. So if we want to reject it and not ask staff to bring anything else forward, we can vote yes on the motion. If there was some part of the building materials that we felt was worth keeping, then, you know, we can make further amendments if this is voted down. But I personally feel like it's just better to just keep the status quo as it's been for the last couple of years and before 2014. Thanks.
All right. Kimberly?
Yes, thank you, President Olson. I just wanted to clarify, commissioners may be aware of this, but the motion out of commission today will be forwarded to the city council. So a motion to deny will be forwarded to the city council as a denial, a motion to approve or with amendments or whatever it is. But this is not the final step for the amendment. It does need to go forward to the city council from here.
Thanks, Kimberly. That was my first thing on my list, is that this is advisory to the city council, so I want us to keep that in mind. And I also want to, you know, we're here to advise them, and I think it's important for us to send something to them and send something the best we can make it. So I'm going to vote no on the motion. I also want to remind everyone, like, there's flexibility within these. Medell, is that correct? Yes. And not only that, but we are going from not allowing certain things to only having more flexibility and allowing things. So maybe it's incremental planning and it's not the most radical thing in the world, but I think it is a good step in the right direction, and we can always amend these as we see fit. So, anything else before I call? Okay, Commissioner Meyer.
I mean, I just want to point out that what you said depends on where you're starting it. Like whether, like the status quo is that we have no restrictions on building materials. So like if we're saying that we're going from not allowing to being more permissive, that's true relative to the previous proposals that were made, and it's true relative to the guidelines that were in place for 2014 to 2021. But it will make things more restrictive than what they are in the status quo. Thanks.
Commissioner Campbell?
My understanding, and Medell, maybe you can clarify this for me, is that while we did not adopt the 2014 guidelines, they're still in practice being used.
They're not.
So there are no building.
There's no building guidelines in use right now.
Okay.
People can use any material they want right now.
So that's contrary to the testimony that we heard from people in the audience today, which is they feel like the 2014 guidelines are being treated as quote unquote regulations. Is there anything that happens with site plan review or any other administrative step that has to come through planning that would dictate what materials people use in their building? Because the people here are saying that there are. And I just want to clarify that discrepancy.
Commissioner Campbell, if you look at the staff reports that are coming before you that include an analysis on site plan review, we're stating what the exterior materials are, and that's the extent of the review on exterior materials right now, is noting what they are in the staff report and noting that if they are changed at a later date, that projects may need to come back before the commission, so it's not essentially a bait and switch. We often see value engineering at permit phase where materials are swapped or, you know, for any reason, materials are changed out. So those projects come back to the Planning Commission. Staff gives guidance to applicants about blank walls, building materials, that sort of thing, but the analysis in your staff reports includes simply an acknowledgement of what materials are being proposed, and that is it.
Go ahead.
I'll just ask it one more time. So currently, in the city of Minneapolis, any building material is acceptable on any building?
That is correct, yes.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
I'm perplexed.
Any other discussion, or should we call the roll on the motion? the motion is to deny the text amendment, regulations related to exterior building materials. Okay. Go ahead.
What does that mean to deny? Since we are apparently sending something to the city council.
So we're recommending that the council does not adopt these, correct?
Okay.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
I always go first.
They're in alphabetical order.
Aye.
Baxley.
Nay.
Campbell.
Nay.
Emmerich.
Aye.
Ford.
No.
Koski is absent. Marwa.
No.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
No.
So that's 3 yeas and 5 nays.
All right, that motion doesn't pass. Would anyone like to make a different motion?
Commissioner Meyer had a...
Commissioner Meyer, I believe. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to go if you want. Huh? If you like, I'll start with the EIFS one and then go through the rest of my 4. So I move to allow EIFS at every level of the building.
Say that again, at what?
So to amend the chart to allow EIFS for every level. To allow it at the
All
base.
right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a question of Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah.
Would you be, I think I realize that this is a distinction with very little difference, but I feel like it might be helpful for our regulations to reflect EIFS with drainage as opposed to just regular EIFS. Would you be open to that amendment?
I think for the same reasons that staff, wanted to restrict it, I think that they can't really enforce that. I mean, sure, I guess, but
I feel like they can't enforce wood with drainage and all these other things, even though it's assumed. So if we want to make a regulation that might aim to be better, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah, so I would, accept that as friendly amendment or substitute my motion to say that, we can leave EIFS without drainage as it is on there and then create a new category on the chart, EIFS with drainage allowed throughout the building.
Madam Chair, just one clarification. Before the body can begin amending, we would need a motion to approve the item.
Oh.
Because we can't amend anything until there's a motion on the floor to
Got
approve
it.
or do something.
Thank you. It's getting late. So does someone want to make a motion and then we can amend the motion?
Motion to approve the text amendment.
Second.
All right. So Commissioner Meyer, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, do you want me to say it again though?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I move to add a new category to the chart with EIFS with drainage allowed at every level of the building.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Could we have the chart back up?
So the effect would be to have a check mark across the entire line. That's right. And it would say EIFS with drainage?
Yeah.
Is that correct, Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah, so it leaves EIFS where it is, or you can amend it, EIFS without drainage, I guess, but yeah, it adds EIFS with drainage as a new category.
And then check marks across.
Check marks across the board.
Thank you.
Commissioner Meyer, would you accept your earlier comment? If you look at this chart, what we don't allow gets pretty small. It's really vinyl at the base of a building.
Yeah.
So, we've got CMU at the middle and the top. You had an indication wood, potentially fiber cement, which is now allowed except for on building bases. I'm just wondering if should we do something a little bit more comprehensive and not just single out EIFs if we want to push this forward? Sorry. I'm wondering if we shouldn't amend this, not just be an EIFs amendment, that we should look at the rest of the materials on there and decide, are there things we want to slide over and check? Because we're really down to just a few in a very few specific locations. Because I'm doing this, the idea that we can use anything right now is also kind of where we want to get. But I think there's a lot of good material in this report, some great research that gets us heading down a direction towards more performative building. So I like to forward this to the council with that recommendation, with the great work of staff, that we continue on with it rather than do nothing. So I'm wondering if we don't look at this and figure out what box we don't check on here.
I think it makes more sense to do it a la carte and let commissioners vote for each one individually. So I think we've reached consensus, or at least majority, to allow EIFs. I will next make a motion on wood. If there's, in addition to that, one on stucco or metal panel or fiber cement, I haven't put much thought into those yet. I'd like to hear more about the logic of it, but
I'll make an amendment to add fiber cement, and what was the other one you just mentioned?
So you're amending my amendment?
Yeah, I would, if you'd accept a friendly amendment.
I mean, it can be unfriendly to amend an amendment. You don't have to ask permission. Okay, yeah, I'll support those amendments, but I think it makes sense to vote on them individually.
Yes, procedurally, could we clarify? We have a motion on the floor to adopt staff recommendation. That has been seconded. And then we have an amendment to that motion that Commissioner Meyer made to add the EIFs with drainage category and check it across the board.
Correct. Which
Which hasn't been voted on.
Correct.
And now we're making another amendment. I guess I'll defer to the clerk on whether or not it's most.
We'll do one at a time.
We
is
need
what
to
you-
vote on
okay.
these individually.
All right. So let's focus on the EIFs with drainage. Is there any other discussion on that from any commissioners?
So just to be clear, we're not creating a new category. We are adding EIFs with drainage in the EIFs category.
No, the way I said it, we added a new category.
So we have EIFs, and then we have EIFs with drainage.
Yeah. If you'd like to do it differently, I'm open to that, but.
I think we should keep it one category, EIFs with drainage.
Oh, so then EIFs without drainage is just not allowed? Or
I agree with Commissioner Baxley.
EIFs with drainage.
okay. I will withdraw my motion if you make one.
Again, where are we now?
We're working through it. Did you withdraw your amendment, Commissioner Meyer?
I did.
Okay. I make an amendment to replace EIFs on the allowed exterior building materials recommendations from EIFs to EIFs with drainage and create check marks across all 5 categories: building base, podium, middle tower, top, trim accent material.
Yeah.
Second.
4 categories.
4,
All right.
sorry, not 5, 4.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Does everyone understand that? And then, is there any discussion? Commissioner Baxley, do you have any, I don't know anything about this. Is this an appropriate material for the base of a building?
EIFs? That's a subjective question.
Okay.
Performatively, yes.
Okay,
Aesthetically, you can have your opinions
Okay.
on that, but
got it. All right. Any other questions or discussion on this amendment? All right, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper,
Aye.
Baxley,
aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Emmerich,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye?
Koski,
Aye.
Marwa,
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
That's 9 yeas and 0 nays.
All right. That motion passes. You guys can leave now. No.
Got a camera.
Yeah, none of that. All right. All right. Are there, okay. Put your things down if you actually don't want to talk. Okay. So Alper, did you want to say something?
Okay, I'm going to make an amendment to allow metal panel at the building base.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, to check it. Check the box.
Okay. Is there a reason? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we had a compelling testimony about the, oh my gosh, the art museum.
Wiseman.
The Wiseman, yes. Thank you. And that convinced me.
All right. Any other discussion? Or I'll call the roll.
I think the Weissman has a brick base, but I hear your point. All right.
Commissioner Baxley, did you? Oh, no, sorry.
No, I'm
All right. Seeing none, I guess I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Alper.
Aye.
Baxley.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Emmerich.
Abstain.
Ford.
Aye.
Koski.
Nay.
Marwa.
No.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
No.
So that's 5 yeas, 3 nays, and 1 abstention.
All right. That motion passes. Commissioner Meyer?
I move to allow wood at the building base and podium.
So that's a third amendment, is to allow, go ahead, Commissioner Marwa.
Can I ask staff to explain, I guess, why the reasoning behind these not being building base and podium, or our architect and no, what's the word I'm looking for, architect in residence?
So, may I? Yeah. Okay. So no, we chose brick, CMU, concrete, glass, and stone masonry to be at the base of the building or the podium, and then the reason that we did that is because just from our observation, those are the materials that are able to withstand the most damage. Apart from glass, which kind of gets at our other goals, which are like SEPTED principles, like eyes on the street type of thing. And then the rest of them were allowed middle and top or end as a trim or accent, or at the top and trim or accent.
And while I think that's valid, there are some processes being done to wood, thermally modified wood is become an accepted standard. Now, it can be damaged, but it can be replaced really easily too. So I think to not allow it, I just think we want to, there's some lovely buildings with wood bases that, their owners have to take care of them and maintain them, but it's a perfectly acceptable material.
Yes, that is the reason that we left in the alternative compliance. So,
Exactly.
so then again, people could kind of make a case for using the other materials at the base.
Right. Yeah, and we hadn't talked about that, but I think that is the case many times. If we've got, that's why the Walker has a drive-it base on the back side of it. That's why the Bell Museum has wood all over the outside. So, or the Wiseman has metal at the problem. We can always make those cases. I think we are just making sure that the design community, our developers that the full gamut of those potentials are part of how we think about building in our city. So I think it's important to recognize it here.
All right, Commissioner Meyer?
I don't know if I heard a second for the motion, but I'll speak to it and see if I can get one.
Second.
Okay. Can you pull up that one chart of the climate for embodied materials, the one that has wood as the most climate friendly? For anyone who missed that at our previous meeting, that's the reason that I'm proposing it. I think, yeah, on both this one and the other chart that you scrolled through just a little bit ago, wood is the most climate friendly, even if you have to replace it more frequently than brick, it's still really good. So I think as we're balancing the different things that we're considering, I just felt like wood should be one that is allowed. So that's my reasoning behind it.
All right, so the motion is to allow wood across the chart. Okay, is there any discussion? I'm not going to support this motion.
Say what?
I'm not going to support this motion. I'm just stating that. Okay. All right. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Alper.
Aye.
Baxley.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Emmerich.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Koski.
Nay.
Apologies. Marwa.
No.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
No.
That's 6 yeas and 3 nays.
All right, that motion passes. Commissioner Meyer? Okay.
Okay. So this one should hopefully be non-controversial. It was recommended by staff, but I don't think it was included in the report since the last meeting. So this would replace the language that says the use of brick, concrete, glass, and stone masonry is encouraged where practical and all exposures and elevations facing public realm, and substitute it with the language the use of durable materials is encouraged where practical in all exposures and elevations facing the public realm. The difference between those is, basically I don't propose to prohibit brick. Oh,
That was added.
what was it added?
Yeah.
I looked and I didn't see it.
Oh, no, it's there.
I apologize. Okay, so got that taken care of. Okay, 2 more to go. Okay. So I would strike the language that generally the primary exterior materials incorporated on the front of the building must be incorporated on all sides. So the 2040 plan includes language that supports the first part of the statement. So that part, the first part reads, the appearance of materials on the rear and side walls shall be similar and compatible with the front of the building. But the new expansion on that the staff was proposing to add says that generally the primary exterior materials incorporated on the front of the building must be incorporated on all sides. So I would propose to strike that second sentence. Did anyone need more clarification on that? Sorry, I was. So you should have an email from me that I sent a few weeks ago that you can see what it looks like. Oh yeah, so. Right, so it keeps the first sentence of the guideline that you see on your screen and strikes the second. So the first sentence is taken pretty much directly from the 2040 plan. The second sentence is not in the 2040 plan, and it's an expansion on this first sentence. So I move to amend the guidelines to strike the sentence, generally the primary exterior materials incorporated on the front of the building must be incorporated on all sides. Correct.
All right, Commissioner Marwa?
Yeah, can I just make a comment? I'm going to support Commissioner Meyer on this amendment because I think this policy and the finding put forth by staff is actually more aligned with what Commissioner Meyer is saying, is that Policy 5, visual quality of new development, is we'd want, you know, more expensive, more ornate materials on the front side of the building to happen. I mean, to think about the historic buildings in the city, you know, those kind of ornamental aspects of that is usually on one facade. And I think that's what that policy is saying. I think the guideline, how it's set forth, is not in alignment with that. So I would support Commissioner Meyer's amendment because of that policy for the way he's framing it instead. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Can we count that as a second?
Yes, and I second that. Thank you.
Commissioner Baxley?
Yeah, I think I would generally support that too. However, I think, you know, when we talk about the tradition of the expensive facade and the sort of party wall being less expensive, are generally in a condition where the front elevations are consistent. So when, you know, buildings rises, as in the example here, above its context, you must think about all facades then. So I think having it similar to and compatible is good language. Stop with that. So yeah.
And that was the intent behind that, is to have it on all sides compatible.
Marwa?
Is this photo an example of why would not be allowed with these guidelines?
So the photo is to show basically that the reason behind this policy 5, action step D, was because we are going to have a lot more like more dense buildings, higher buildings, next to and adjacent to lower scale buildings, and so we wanted to have higher quality on all sides. So then that way, because again, you can see that it is very visible to the neighbors. So again, it just trying to create a greater acceptance of those buildings by having higher quality on all sides.
Okay, but I think through commission, we would see that as a blank wall, and, you know, there'd have to be some kind of visual interest put on a blank wall through the work we already do.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'm fine with the amendment still.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
Aye.
Baxley.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Emmerich.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Koski.
Aye.
Marwa.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
That's 9 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, that motion passes. Is this your last one? Nice.
Since we passed changes to wood and metal panels and eaves, and so I guess this would only apply to like vinyl and cement or fiber and stucco, and whatever new materials might emerge down the line. But I still want to make the motion to keep it in there if the council chooses to amend back in restrictions on wood or other things. I think that this is an idea that they should keep nonetheless. So the motion would be that a development that achieves the requirements of the environmental sustainability - climate resiliency premium in Chapter 540 built form, Chapter 540 built form overlay districts may utilize a wider range of materials at a building's base upon demonstrating that the intent is to utilize materials with less embodied carbon. So the intent of this motion is to say that if you've got a project that is really going out of its way to be climate friendly, you know, in order to meet the environmental sustainability premium that we have already, they have to get LEED certified or do some other energy efficiency threshold, which is pretty expensive for them to do. So if they're demonstrating that they're committed enough to reducing carbon pollution, that they're reaching that we will permit a wider range of materials if they can demonstrate that they are made with less embodied carbon.
Second.
So yeah.
Madam President, where is that amendment going to go?
It's a new guideline.
It would be added somewhere.
What, where?
just at the end of the list of the guidance as a new point. Or it could be, it doesn't have to be at the end, but it just has to be added.
Can you just point to a page so I can look at it?
The page that we're seeing, on the left-hand side.
Oh,
you
to this page here, yes, I see.
Yep.
Okay.
So the left-hand side has the exterior building materials
Gotcha.
guidance.
Okay, thank you.
And this would be a new addition.
All right, Commissioner Baxley?
Commissioner Meyer, I think I understand the intent of that, but more than likely, if they have to meet those guidelines, there's going to be a very specific palette that, to get there. So I don't know if you're going to meet the energy guideline, then you got to, if the intent is to give you more range of materials to meet it, or is it a reward because you're meeting it?
Both, I don't see whether there's a conflict. So my intent on this, so there was previously a project on, was it the project on Van Buren that tried to get approval for more climate-friendly materials and didn't get it.
Yep.
I mean, I'd like to be supportive of projects that are really trying to go above and beyond to be carbon friendly. So if you want to clarify what the distinction you see between the two different things you said is, like, I can try to suss that out.
Thinking it over in my head that to kind of meet those things, you're going to have to be picking pretty carbon neutral materials to meet those.
I think it's a very limited number of cases that this would apply to, but I do want to be supportive when they do meet these standards.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for the clarification.
All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Alper.
Aye.
Baxley.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Emmerich.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Koski.
Aye.
Marwa.
No.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
That's 8 yeas and 1 nay.
All right, that motion passes. So I believe if we are done with our amendments, we could vote on the overall motion, which is to approve the text amendment to amend regulations related to exterior building materials as amended. Okay? So I guess I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. Oh, it's already been made. Okay, so now we're voting on it. Okay. Any discussion?
I have one last thing. I know
Yeah.
you're going to kill me. These are lovely materials for the captive audience that's here today, but we can also get them by email, and we don't have to blow through reams of paper. So this is, I think, the 5th time we've gotten these kinds of things. I encourage you to send us to planning staff around the country if you ever do this again, because we don't need all this paper. Yeah, if you can reuse this, you can take it to anywhere else you need
Yeah,
to.
we'll give them back to you. All right. Commissioner Ford, did you have something? Oh, okay. Excellent. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Alper.
Pass.
Baxley.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Emmerich.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Koski.
Aye.
Marwa.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
That's 9 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, that motion passes, and that was our last item for the evening. Are there
I
any?
said pass, but
Oh, my
if you
apologies.
were to have come back to me, I would have said aye.
Oh,
Okay, that motion still passes. Are there any announcements from staff?
Well, just thank you to staff again for all the hard
Yes,
work.
thank you to
Thank
staff.
you.
Just a reminder that there is no committee of the whole on Thursday. It was not scheduled for Thursday, so it's not a canceled meeting. It was just never a scheduled meeting.
We earned a break. All right, anything else? If not,
Can I add one friendly reminder to the Planning Commission?
Please.
Please remember to turn on your mics before you speak. We can all hear each other in the room, but on the recording, if your mic is not on, nothing is heard. So please remember to turn on your mics before you speak, please.
Did you get all the motions that you needed?
Yep.
yes.
We kept turning on the mic so that we did.
Okay, good.
And if I can add on to that, not only that it's on, but that you're speaking into it.
Yeah.
Like this.
Okay.
Or like
Read.
this.
Thank you. All right.
I have old ears here.
I'll declare this meeting. Our next planning commission meeting
Thank you very much.
is Monday, October 30th. No planning commission this Thursday.
We hadn't ended yet. I got up. Sorry. Sorry about that. I got up. Oh, that's.